welcome to Films from the Phantom Zone, your podcast about failed and forgotten comic book movies. My name is Arnaldo, and next to me, like every week, is...
Berto again.
Berto, you say like you don't want to be here. Again.
That's just how I sound.
Okay, we took a short hiatus for the holidays. We focused on our Christmas episode. If you're still in the spirit, check that out. That was a good time. We also did a review for Wonder Woman 1984. Did you like that?
Yeah, that could be a fun thing to do like every once in a while, not...
We'll see where we go from that. We can do maybe some short ones, a couple things. I don't know.
We're back on track.
Yeah, we're back on track. We're back on our Batman quadrilogy. 4 movies. That's a made-up word, by the way.
The Batman saga.
Yeah, we did Batman from 1989 starring Michael Keaton. We did Batman Returns for our Christmas movie.
Starring Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton as Batman. And now we are moving on to the sequel.
Batman Forever, starring Val Kilmer.
Starring Val Kilmer, Jim Carrey.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Nicole Kidman.
Yes, Nicole Kidman as...
Dr. Chase Meridian.
Yeah.
So this movie's available on HBO Max, except we just checked today. I'm so sorry. They just took it down from HBO Max. We said this a couple weeks ago that this might happen, where they put stuff up on HBO Max and then they take it down. Not very max of HBO Max when half of their shit is limited. But it seems that they had, you said all these movies moved to Showtime or something?
Available on Showtime, which I don't have. So I ended up just renting it from Vudu for like $3.
That sucks. I own it. Rent it, wait for it to come back on HBO Max. If you listen to this later, you want to watch along with us. Apparently, they have all these pre-existing contracts on where these movies are supposed to be showing, like what streaming service.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons Disney Plus started getting a bunch of the Fox stuff late. Because even though they bought Fox outright, all these Fox properties, like some of these X-Men movies had to be played on this channel.
And they're still only getting some of them
slowly.
Slow drip of it.
That's probably what is happening here because all these movies were just on HBO Max and now they're not.
As of today, January 5th, 2021, you can watch it on Showtime if you have it. If not, you got to pay, sorry.
I own this one on 4K. And honestly, it looked really good on 4K. We'll get to it. But I like HDR, seeing perfect blacks, bright colors. A lot of bright colors in this movie.
Yeah, huge departure from the first two.
Yeah. So, and I really like how it looked on my TV. Let's get into it. Initial thoughts. Have you ever seen this movie before?
I saw it as a kid. I remember bits and pieces of it. That's about it, really. So it was like watching a new movie for me.
Oh, nice. Growing up, I said this, I think, in the last one, huge Batman fan. And so these were coming out as I was a kid. Like the last one, 92, I would have been 4. I didn't like that movie because I don't ever think I saw it more than once because, like we said, Batman Returns is not a kid's movie at all. But this one, being that it's more tailored for children, I watched the hell out of Batman Forever. Watching it was like opening up like some repressed memories because I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, honestly.
Right.
I don't know why. I just never thought to put it on. It felt kind of like the first time in a lot of ways, but it was also more
like
of the ways
nostalgia trip.
Yeah, it was like unlocking memories you didn't know you had put away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got that feeling when we watched
LXG.
Actually, yeah, it was LXG because I watched that a lot as a kid because it was always on FX.
Right. I was super excited to get back into this and see how it holds up to my memories. Because again, as a kid, I fucking loved this movie. And there's so many movies that when you're a kid, you love. And growing up, sometimes, you'll go back to it and you're like, oh, that was dog shit. Like, how could I have ever liked that, But then sometimes the opposite happens where that's your expectation. You're like, oh, if I liked that as a kid, it's probably bad now. And you go back and you're like, that was actually really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, I've definitely had those.
Like, I've seen old SpongeBob or the Rugrats. I'll go back and
some of those still hold up.
Yeah, and those are really quite amazing.
Yeah.
But then you'll see something like, I don't know, what's a bad thing from our childhood?
Would you be upset if I said Batman Forever?
All right, moving on. So let's just get into it. Oh, and time codes below. So if you want to skip us talking about the plot, skip to the analysis. You can skip to keep or cancel. Otherwise, plot. Movie opens up quicker. No time for title cards. We're just going into it. It's just a logo. And then we get the suit up. Do you like that?
If it were better?
Yeah. It's kind of like super iconic now.
Yeah.
Everything in these next 2 movies gets parodied a lot.
Right. And the suit up scene, the idea of it's fine. It didn't look cool,
this movie mostly exists to appease McDonald's and toy manufacturers.
This movie was done for marketing, and that's pretty much it.
Right, and so they could sell this movie to kids because the last one, they couldn't at all.
Which is
that's
why they moved over to Schumacher. And
they took like an extreme overreaction. They just went, all right, well, let's make something much more kid-friendly.
Gotham looks completely different now.
I kind of love it. I'm going to be honest. It's one of my favorite parts.
The way they showed it, though, it was like a weird CG.
No, right. The CG is not great. It's fine for... This is 1995. It's fine for the time, but I really, really like the design of this Gotham City.
Like when they're actually in the streets and stuff?
Yeah.
Something about it's just strange. There's like neon lights everywhere.
The neon lights I don't like. I should rephrase. But this...
It's like the main aesthetic.
I know. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So I was looking at Gotham and all 4 of these movies.
Right.
And we just binged 3 and 4 just now, so we might get a little hazy. But in Batman Returns, the whole set got changed. Remember we talked about they moved the production and he was given different liberties, so he rearranged a lot of stuff. And he started setting up Gotham City to be like this big... Well, again, Gotham City is supposed to be Gothic architecture.
Right.
It's a mix of like timeless stuff. So like he was doing a lot of Art Deco.
And by him, you mean Burton?
Burton, thank you. Burton was doing a lot of Art Deco, and so there was like these really kind of slick buildings mixed with some like Gothic architecture. Yeah. So, like some buildings were like very ornate.
And I did like that.
All that. And then there'd be like a random statue that's like 50 feet tall. Just like scattered all around Gotham.
It's like
and
really
that was in the
weird looking
one.
statues of like people.
Yeah.
Like weird humans doing like weird poses or like holding their hands up.
Yeah. But do you remember the front steps of City Hall in Gotham in Batman Returns for like the Christmas time stuff?
Yeah.
There was like 2 big statues there.
Yep.
That aesthetic kind of continues on into these movies.
It does.
And that kind of sticks around. I feel like the only main difference between Gotham and Batman Returns, in the first Batman, it seems very different. Mostly because it was a small budget. They just used one street, and then they used a bunch of miniatures.
And then there was like City Hall, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, and then a bunch of miniatures, a bunch of matte paintings, stuff like that. But now, it seems like the only main difference they did is just light it with neon lights at nighttime, and that's kind of it.
And I will say, in these movies, both this one and the next one, Gotham does feel more like a city. Like, it feels like there's actually people living there.
Yeah, I think it's a CGI, because now they're using a lot more
Now they can actually
CGI,
show a bit more.
And some of it, like I said, 1995, you know.
Some of it is good.
Some of it's good.
But in this movie, when they first go over Gotham City, it's almost like a flyby.
Yeah.
And it's like CG, and it looks very much like a cutscene from like a PC game.
Yeah, for sure. I see that. Suit up, new Batmobile. What do you think about the new Batmobile?
Not a huge fan. I feel like they keep getting more ridiculous.
They do, but I can't. Okay, but the first one was ridiculous too.
True. I think Batman Returns had my favorite Batmobile.
That's the same one from the first one.
Yeah, but it did the...
Okay, that's ridiculous.
Thing.
The little split thing goes through the alley.
But this has like a giant ass fin and lights.
I think this one might be my favorite.
This one's probably more iconic.
I don't know. It's got
at least
these,
for
like,
kids our age.
It's got those cutouts, and then underneath it's like really lit. You know, with like blue lights. I don't know. There's something about this one I think is cool.
Reminds me of a Hot Wheels toy.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I had all these Hot Wheels toys, of like all 4 of them. None of them are great. I'm going to be honest. Like, none of these Batmobiles are fantastic, but I think this one might be my favorite. We get Val Kilmer in the brand new suit. What do you think of this suit?
My only issue with the suit was the nipples. The rest of the suit I was okay with.
I think I'm going to be a defender of the nipples now.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've crossed over. I think I've crossed over a little bit because... So I have a quote from Schumacher.
I just think it's like ridiculous looking.
Joel Schumacher, the director of the movie, says, "I had no idea putting nipples on the Batsuit and Robin suit were going to spark international headlines. The bodies of the suits come from ancient Greek statues which display perfect bodies. They are anatomically correct." I kind of agree. Here's the thing. When we talked about the Batsuits, we're just going in on like all these things and kind of skipping the plot, but that's fine. We'll skip back. We talked about all the Batsuits, and I said that the Batman Returns one I thought was better than the Batman one, because the Batman one, like, his suit is based on a male musculature. Yeah. It's got abs, it's got pecs, and it obviously doesn't have nipples. The second one was more of like armor plating, it looked like. Yeah. But then remember, spoiler alert, it's fucking rubber and he just rips it off. But it looks like armor plates. Like, it doesn't look like abs anymore.
Yeah. I like that.
I liked it too. It's almost like an Iron Man type suit, right? This one goes back to musculature, but it's much better built. each one gets better built because there's more money and there's more tech and they get better at it, right? There's all these behind the scenes videos you can find of like the studios that create these suits and how they do it, and they mold it and they do all this really interesting stuff. He looks more mobile than any of the Keaton ones. Yeah. Like, he's turning his head. He's doing flips.
He's able to turn his head. And do no, they improved the suit in that aspect. I think I just don't like the whole, like, abs on the suit. I've never liked that on, like, any costume. Like, abs on the suit, nipples on the suit. Like,
well, that's my point.
Let it look like a suit.
Exactly. I'm with you there. Don't get me wrong. But if you are going to make the suit look like human muscles and you leave the nipples out, now that looks weird. Because people have nipples. And that's Schumacher's point. He's basically saying, he's like, I didn't think this was going to be a big deal. Like, I'm looking at a human body and it's missing nipples, you know?
I mean, that is a good point, but I'm still going to go back to, like, why put any of that on the suit at all?
Okay, but again, they did it in the first movie.
Yeah, and
at this point,
we didn't like the first suit.
I know, but I think it's just precedence at this point. There's like, okay, well, if it's got to look like this, fucking, it should have nipples. Now, I linked all of the Batsuits pretty much ever below. Please look at them if like you're not driving. Just like, this is super interesting, but I think this is my favorite one. In all honesty, even with or without the nipples, you can Photoshop the nipples out. It's still my favorite one. It's not the nipples is not why I like it.
The cowl is definitely a lot better. I'm a fan of the cape. All of that is much better. But overall suit, I'm still going to go with Batman Returns.
Here's why I like it. First of all, it's like really, really black. It's blacker than the Batman Returns one. It's about as black as the first Batman one. And he kind of just looks more like Batman, I feel. The chest piece, like the symbol, just looks kind of more like it's like a dark gold. It's not a bright yellow.
It doesn't stand out.
Yeah, it doesn't stand out. And it just looks like 3D. Kind of, and it is actually. If you look at like close-ups of it, on our Instagram page, I shared a picture of it's a close-up of the bat symbol on his chest. The symbol's like raised up. It's got depth to it. You know, it's not just like a picture. And I like that the utility belt isn't bright yellow anymore. The bright yellow made no sense to me, especially since you could see there was nothing on it. This one looks like it has stuff on it. It looks like it's like a real thing. You know, it looks very similar to if we go forward to Christian Bale's utility belt. It looks almost the same as that one, honestly. Okay. And then the cape just matches perfectly. I was like, this is perfect. This is a perfect Batsuit for these movies.
I think it'd be perfect without the muscles.
So like if it was, okay.
Like if it looked more just like armor, you know?
Yeah, well, do you like the second suit they gave him? I hate it.
No.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Why is it? Yeah.
First of all, it's like bright silver and he looks really weird in it. It's at the end of the movie, but there's some CGI kind of Batman stuff and some like of like a stuntman doing stuff. Yeah. But it looks badass. And it's 1995 and I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is exciting. Like Batman's doing stuff. Remember, Michael Keaton didn't do anything.
Right. They didn't really give him anything to do. Like there's a lot more Batman and a lot more Bruce Wayne in this movie.
Yeah. When he's fighting, like his fight scenes are just kind of boring. He's standing up very straight, throws a punch, throws a kick once or twice in those movies. Like, you don't really believe that he's a good Batman just by looking at like his stunts and his like fighting capabilities, you know? But in this one, the fight choreography is way improved, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but...
And it's still kind of like mediocre, but it is much improved from the first two movies.
But did you catch the McDonald's reference?
I did not.
Open up on the Batcave. Remember, the Batmobile shows up. Yeah. He's about to get in the car. We see the suit for the first time, and Alfred goes, "You should really eat before you go," or he says something along those lines. And he goes, "I'll get drive-through."
I'll get drive-through.
It's not explicitly a McDonald's reference, but there was so much behind-the-scenes problems with McDonald's not wanting to do a Happy Meal toy with them, right? Which, like we said, markets these kinds of movies to kids so well that they really had to change how this movie was made to get McDonald's back on board. So I thought that's a funny bit. And then you cut to Two-Face robbing the bank.
Yeah. Who is white now.
You're obsessed with his different actor.
They changed his race completely.
Well, they changed him twice now. Because, remember, in the first movie, played by Billy D. Williams. Right. William December Williams. And he was supposed to, in like several movies, slowly turn into
Which would have been
Two-Face.
Really cool to see.
Would have been fantastic. That's how you set up Two-Face, because Two-Face is not a quick origin.
No, here they gloss over and they're like, somebody threw acid on him.
Exactly. And that's the worst way to do it, because the whole point of Two-Face is that he used to be friends with Bruce Wayne. Yeah. He's one of like Bruce Wayne's few friends, being like a socialite in Gotham City. Mm-hmm. And because Harvey Dent, the district attorney who is standing up to organized crime finally, is not corrupt. He is the one guy that is doing Batman's job legitimately.
Yes.
Batman is a huge supporter of his, and that accident happens. He goes crazy. He becomes this multiple personality disorder psychopath killer who has to flip a coin and leave everything up to chance. Every decision that he makes is he flips a coin for it, right?
Because to him, that's fair.
Right. The justice system that he served for so long means nothing to him anymore. All he cares about is chaos and pure chance. They kind of touch up on that, but not really on this character.
They go into the multiple personality thing a lot, but they don't go deep into it. No, it's just, half of his room is like black and dark and the other half's white. And, like stupid little things like that. And they don't touch over his relationship with Bruce like at all.
At all. No, not at all. And so it's kind of a big dump on this character that should have been set up really well. We said last time, Billy D. Williams didn't come back for Batman Returns because he had some other movie he was doing.
Was it Star Wars?
No, that would have been way before. That was 80. It was like 10 years. You're like 10 years off.
Whoops.
But that role got rewritten into Max Schreck, remember?
Yeah.
And so if you were to pretend that Max Schreck's character is kind of the connecting piece between this Two-Face and that Harvey Dent, you can see how they would have created something really good here.
Yeah.
You know?
Instead, we get almost nothing. He just shows up.
Yeah, character's rewritten basically twice and recasted twice, and now is played by Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
And
how do you go from Billy D. Williams to Tommy Lee Jones, and it's the same character?
Yeah. And
so, it makes me question the continuity of this universe.
So, and there is a lot in here where they say, like, this is connected. They make references to the other movies, but it is very loose.
Yeah.
And there's been several recastings. It's obviously not just Billy D. Williams to Tommy Lee Jones. It's Batman.
Batman gets recasted a total of 3 times.
Exactly. So we have Val Kilmer here, who is, I think, younger than Michael Keaton. And that's one of the main kind of glaring issues here is that he seems 5 years older than Robin, who we meet in this movie. And he's like giving him life advice and shit. And I'm like, aren't y'all the same age? You look the same age.
I think they also made Robin a little too old in this movie.
Maybe. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Batman's too young, Robin's too old. What do you do? You know? Although Dick Grayson's usually older.
Right.
This is the age Dick Grayson
This guy
is.
looks... I get, like, his character's probably supposed to be, like, 17 or maybe 18. But they say he's, like, an orphan, though, so he has to be underage.
No, I think... We'll get to it. Let's keep moving.
Yeah.
So we meet Two-Face. Here's the thing. This character's horrible. This, like, the thing I hate most about this movie, I think, is Two-Face.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the movie, though, and I'm listening to his dialogue. I don't think the problem is how the character was written. I think the entire problem is the direction that Joel Schumacher and Tommy Lee Jones took with it. You listen to his dialogue, and it's not bad. Like, his lines are not bad. And they're very on point for what Two-Face should be, the character.
Yeah.
But instead of just, like, taking it in one direction, he takes it in a Joker direction.
Yeah.
And it's a...
like, complete psychopath.
Yeah.
Like,
everything's funny.
Losing his mind.
He's laughing.
Cracking jokes all the time.
Everything. He laughs maniacally. Yeah, he's making jokes.
Yeah.
But, like... if you just take the script and read it differently, it'd already be a better character. It's all in the direction of this character.
Two-Face is generally a pretty serious character,
It's a very serious character.
Yeah.
He's not having a good time at all. Did you watch the animated series?
When I was a kid, I did, yeah.
In that one, he's like the most serious character. Mr. Freeze is like the most serious character. And then followed by Two-Face. Mm-hmm. He's very just...
no nonsense.
no nonsense, yeah. So that was weird. And it only gets weirder as the movie goes on, right?
Yeah, him and Riddler get this weird chemistry going, but let's keep going.
Batman shows up, right? He fights all the goons. All the goons are wearing... they look like BDSM masks with like a hole in the mouth for like a ball gag, you know?
Or a dick.
And there's a lot of kind of weird sexual things in this.
Yeah.
I'm going to get into that a little bit later.
Weird considering that this was a more kid-friendly movie.
That's the thing. Swings in, fights all the goons, and this is the part where I'm like, oh, the action in this is pretty good, honestly. Like, the fight choreography is much improved.
It's entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and I'm having a good time watching Batman fight, which I didn't before.
Well, you also didn't really fight before. So.
Exactly. You didn't do much of anything
The first two movies were more of, like, dramas, where this is becoming more of, like, an action.
A little bit. Swings in, and then there's the bank employee.
Yeah.
You remember him? And he's like, oh, no, like that.
Well, he's yelling for, like, help. Batman comes into the safe, rips, like, the tape off, and the bank guy just goes, it's a trap!
Yeah. So he gets, like, locked in the safe, and then the most improbable thing. I mean, the physics of this movie are non-existent. But the bank vault gets ripped off, and then is now being carried by a helicopter.
Yep.
So that was crazy. And then
the vault starts filling with boiling acid.
Yeah, he rigged the whole thing up.
Where the hell is the acid coming from?
And so in this movie, it gets a lot more Adam Westy in a lot of like the gags, right? Like a lot of like the villains are way back into like this campy side. But in the defense, it's still kind of like a halfway point between super campy Adam West and what we just got with Tim Burton. Because he fucking strapped rockets and like headsets on penguins. So is it any crazier than that?
I think as far as tone goes with the villains, they kind of did an overcorrection.
Sure, yeah. But like I said, I don't think it's all the way there. I think the next movie takes it another mile.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
This one is only halfway there, right? And I think this is, I mean, I feel like this is like a happy medium for, okay, you got to make the fucking toy companies happy. You got to make McDonald's happy, but still try to make a halfway decent movie.
We got to make little handheld video games for this shit.
Yeah, I had that one.
I think I did too.
Yeah. So the helicopter goes all the way to the Statue of Gotham, which is like a reverse of the Statue of Liberty. I always thought as a kid, because I guess I don't know if I could, maybe I couldn't fucking read. I don't know.
This isn't New York.
Yeah, I would be like, oh, how did they get to New York? This is Gotham City. And I always thought they were like right next to each other. Like, I always kind of assumed that Gotham City was like in New Jersey. So that if you cross
right across the river?
Yeah, if you cross the river, now you're in New York City. It was like Newark. I always thought it was like, oh, in this universe, Newark doesn't exist and Gotham is in its place. I had to rationalize everything as a kid.
The shitty DC city is in Jersey because of course it is.
Right. Well, I mean, again, Gotham City was written by like New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And I think it's supposed to be like the shittiest part of New York, but maybe they meant like the shittiest parts of New Jersey.
Maybe they're throwing shade.
Yeah.
Across the river.
So Two-Face gets away.
away.
Batman survives. Statue of fucking Gotham is fucked. And then he meets Dr. Chase Meridian, who's played by Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
Tom Cruise's wife at this time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were married during this time. And she's like a foot taller than him. And she immediately is like gaga for Batman. So she immediately calls him out for being like a psycho, like right there. Because she's this psychiatrist that is brought in to help the Gotham City Police Department with like, you know,
all these psycho villains.
Crazies. Exactly. Yeah. And then Batman gets there and she's like, but who are you? Like, you're no better.
Yeah.
You know?
But then she like immediately starts like flirting with him.
Yes.
And then Batman says, and I wrote it down, he's like, are you trying to get under my cape? Try a fireman. There's less to take off.
I like some of the banter in this movie, by the way.
A lot of the banter is very sexual.
Yeah, this is a very sexually charged film, I think.
Yeah.
But it's at least more, like, subvertive than the last one, where they're just like, let's fuck, you know?
Yeah. But
she immediately calls him out for being a psycho. She's like, something like this leaves a victim in a state of not knowing right and wrong, like you. And so I complain. I don't know where you stood on this, but there wasn't enough, like, analysis of Batman, like the character in the last two movies.
Right.
You know, I felt that...
No, I think we both agreed on that.
Yeah. I felt that it's too much about the villains, and Batman got no play in the last two movies. He's just there to kind of move the plot and be Batman, but he's not in any way being treated like a three-dimensional character. And in Batman Returns, they did a little bit of that.
It's like they tried to attempt it, but they really just scratched the surface of it.
And they did it indirectly because what they really did was look at Catwoman and then pair them together. They spent a lot of time on Catwoman, but then they pair them together and then they say, oh, but these guys are the same. Batman and Catwoman are the same. And Batman's like, oh, I'm just like you. I'm two sides of like one person and blah, blah, blah. But it's not really properly done.
We just had like a hint of it.
Exactly. Yeah. In this one, Joel Schumacher's like, well, Batman's clearly has problems. We should analyze that. Let's have him date a psychiatrist. That's a genius move.
Which it is, but I would argue that they don't really go into too much depth with that either in this.
I think it's a fair amount. I really like what they do with Batman in this movie. But let's move on.
Yeah.
So it cuts to Wayne Enterprises. And we get to see Bruce Wayne doing Bruce Wayne stuff too. Like, we got none of this in the last movie.
Yeah, we actually see that he runs a company.
Yeah. And so he's just kind of getting a tour of his own company, right? Because he's not like, I don't even know if he's the CEO. He's getting a tour or whatever, and he meets Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey in this movie is
Edward
Nygma, who becomes the Riddler. He has like newspaper clippings of Bruce Wayne all over his office. He's kind of obsessed with Bruce Wayne. And he finally gets to meet him because they won't let him talk to him because he's crazy. And he wants to, like, fund his project.
Yeah, he wanted to meet him for a very specific reason.
Yeah. And his project is all about TV, but what if TV goes straight into your brain, right? And I feel like this whole thing is a commentary on like how TV rots your brain and like maybe movies are better, because TV only recently got good, I feel. Back in this era, it's still kind of shit.
I feel like TV used to be just trash.
Yeah. And so he finally gets a second, and his boss is like, shut the fuck up. Do not talk to Bruce Wayne. Why are you here? You weren't supposed to be here today. And Bruce Wayne's like, we can't do this. This is crazy. Like, you can't, hack into people's brains.
This sounds like it brings up too many issues.
Yeah, obviously.
And then he's like, you were supposed to understand.
Right,
I'll make you understand.
Yeah. He has like this obsession with him too. He's like, he idolizes him.
Yeah.
And so this happens, I feel like, a lot when like you meet an idol or like crazy
Never
people.
meet your heroes.
Yeah. You meet your idol and you're let down. And so he goes into his office, and I love this part because he like clicks some buttons in his office. His chair like turns into a slide. A big hole opens up, and he slides down.
And we actually
the back
see
cave.
him sliding.
Yeah. And it goes through, and I'm like, how far away are you from the Batcave right now? I mean, like, logistically, like, if this is downtown Gotham and you're on the outskirts of town, realistically, like, several miles, right? And you're just going through this fucking tube all the way to the Batcave.
I wouldn't want to be in a slide for longer than, like, 30 seconds.
Exactly. I kind of like it, but at the same time, why don't you just have, a different Batsuit in your office so you can just kind of be Batman there and you skip a trip to the Batcave,
Yeah.
Because that's what, have you played Arkham City? Not Arkham City. Arkham Knight?
Yes.
In that one, he has, like, Batsuits in his office also.
Yes.
There's the Batcave, and then you can also go to his office, and it's kind of the same thing, but you can just get
almost
dressed
like
there.
emergency suits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Batman's smart. This is what he would have. He goes to the Bat Signal, and it's Dr. Chase Meridian, again, Nicole Kidman, and she's fucking around. She lit the damn thing because she just wants to see him, because she has a crush on him.
Yeah.
I like this character a lot, but they kind of make her into, like, this...
Slut.
Like, a little bit, yeah.
She's, they portrayed her as just, like, her only goal is to get in Batman's pants.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be,
It's
like, this
very
intelligent
weird,
woman.
because she's very intelligent, and she proves herself to be so. Like, she doesn't... Like, she becomes a damsel in distress towards the end, almost out of necessity, for, like, this movie to work. But they do kind of make her to be kind of like this preteen, like, I have a crush on Batman, but
They portrayed
I
her
like this
almost
other boy.
like a, I'm doing air quotes here, but like a bimbo.
But again, she's not.
But she's
super
not.
smart.
Exactly. That's why it's weird.
Yeah. And Joel Schumacher is an openly gay man. I feel like he has a lot of respect for women, at least more so than we've seen in a lot of these movies. And so it's kind of strange how he treats some of his female characters.
Yeah.
Some of it might be out of his control. Like, the studio is going to say, hey, we need these things. We need a hot chick. We need a damsel in distress. You work within these parameters.
Because
maybe that's what he's
sex
doing.
Sells.
Oh, yeah. So she has to be sexy. She has to be in love with Batman, right? And so maybe he's trying to do the best way he can, but I don't know. But she's in a nightie, by the way. And she's, like, trying to, like, seduce Batman right then and there.
And then Batman's like, the bat signal is not a beeper.
Yeah. But my favorite part is that she grabs, like, his chest plate with the nipples.
His nips.
And she's like, something black rubber. And I'm like, stop doing that. Stop calling it rubber, please. Unless you admit that there's some sort of like armor in there and it's like covered in rubber. Like, I don't know. I'm over them calling it rubber because you're admitting that Batman is just like a costume.
Just wearing a rubber costume.
Exactly. She says, I'll bring the wine. You bring the scarred psyche. And she makes a reference.
That's actually a good line.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Again, like, she's kind of fascinated with him, but she's also, like, infatuated. Like, she's, like, very attracted to Batman for being Batman, but she's also like, I want to study you. Like,
Yeah.
I get it.
She's interested in him for more than one reason.
For sure. And she makes a Catwoman reference. So, again, there is a little bit of, like...
Yeah, didn't she say something like, or do you prefer, like, whips or something like that? Whips and leather?
She's like, I did my research. She knows. At least they're telling us there's continuity, even though we don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, right. So we go back to Wayne Enterprises, and Edward Nygma, Jim Carrey, tests his machine on his boss because he's pissed now.
Yeah.
And his boss is is on his way to fire him, and so he's like, "Well, fuck you. Sit down and try my machine." He puts a headset on him, and he kind of goes full Jim Carrey, right?
Yeah, like the weird movements and everything.
And like he's just tossing out jokes every, references and jokes like a mile a minute. I've thought about this.
He's like playing his character from The Mask, it seems like, at this point.
He's Ace Ventura, he's Mask. He's Jim Carrey. You know what I mean? I don't know where I fall on this because I thought about this for a long time. I'm like, do I like this character or do I not like it? I don't know, because I don't know if I want Riddler to be Jim Carrey, like the person, Not like played by Jim Carrey, because Jim Carrey's a phenomenal actor.
Right.
But if he's just being Jim Carrey, is it a good Riddler? Like, I really can't tell, you know?
I don't like this Riddler.
But then I said during the Christmas special too, I love that he Jim Carreyed the Grinch. So I don't know where my line is, you know? I'm honestly confused.
To me, like, I like the Riddler when he's like a condescending asshole.
Well, the Riddler in the comics and like all the various media is smarter than most people. He has an obsessive compulsion, which is that he has to prove to Batman that he's smarter than him. And he does so by sending him riddles. And in the riddle lies the answer to like solving the crime. So like if he's going to rob a place, he's going to tell Batman where he's going to rob it. He wants to prove to Batman
that he's smarter.
That he's smarter by giving him the opportunity and watching him fail.
Yeah.
Right? And Batman, being the world's greatest detective, sometimes will beat him and sometimes might not, right?
Yeah.
They're really at ends intellectually. Mm-hmm. And I feel like some of that works in this. And
this
some
movie
of it
does a
doesn't.
little bit of that, but none of the riddles are really that clever in this movie.
Okay, so I'm really excited about the riddles. That's my favorite part of this movie. I think the riddles are good, and we're going to go through each one of them because there's 4 riddles. We'll get to that. Basically, he shows how the machine works, and he admits that once you put on the machine and watch TV in your fucking brain, he steals, like, your
He's stealing your
basically.
IQ. Yeah.
Essentially, like, he's ripping knowledge from you and putting it into his brain, and he's getting smarter. Right. Yeah. And so he's doing it, and it kind of shows that as this movie progresses, he's getting smarter and smarter and smarter.
I'll give you one guess what his grand scheme is.
Wait, what?
Steal everybody's intelligence.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I don't know if you had something else.
Through TV.
Yeah. So he kills his boss after doing that, and then doctors all this footage to make it look like it was a suicide.
Yeah.
And then so Bruce Wayne goes to his secretary or whatever, and he gets the first riddle.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to read all the riddles out, and I'll just give you guys 5 seconds. If you want to like play along, if you want to try to solve the riddle, just pause, think about it, and then we'll
what the riddles
go
were.
on. Oh, I wrote them all down. Okay, so the first riddle is, if you look at the numbers on my face, you won't find 13 anyplace. Okay, so like pause, think about it. Okay, so what's the answer?
A clock.
A clock. That one's really easy though.
No, that one was easy in the movie too. Yeah.
Okay.
He also kind of says it like immediately though.
Because he's smart. The first few riddles are simple. They get progressively harder.
Who would send you a riddle? That, Maggie, is the riddle.
Yeah.
I hated that line.
I kind of liked it. So he gets to his house and there's a second riddle. While he's there, he's watching like a news recap of Two-Face. And all they basically say is it's not Falcone, but it's like a mob boss.
Another one of the mob bosses.
Yeah.
Threw acid on his face.
Yeah. Like during like a hearing.
Yeah.
And Batman was there for some reason. Like,
Batman like dove through the window trying to save him.
What was he just like? Was he sitting in the audience?
Was he expecting it to happen?
Was he a witness? Like what? Anyway. And like
Imagine
he was holding
him in the Batsuit just in the courtroom.
Like, all right, all rise. And so he's holding a piece of paper on his face, I guess, just so perfectly that all the acid hits one side of his face.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Like literally
it's
symmetrical.
Straight down his face. And that's kind of something that bothers me in this. But,
I hate it.
Yeah. Like it goes down his neck and everything if you look closely. So Bruce Wayne goes to visit Dr. Chase Meridian because he has gotten his second riddle. So he has 2 riddles now. And he goes, basically, you're the psychologist. Help me out with this. And she's like, well, you've got a stalker. Like, that's all it is. Like, this person's obsessed with you. And we get the second riddle. All right, riddle number 2. I'm so excited. Tear one off and scratch my head. What was red is black instead. So, think about it. What's the answer?
A match.
Did you get that one too?
That one was another simple one.
Yeah, these are easy.
You strike a match is red, you strike it, and it burns up.
The first 2 are easy. But I think it takes her a second too. She looks at Bruce and he's like, match. Because he's the genius.
He's a genius.
Yeah. So I love this part because Bruce Wayne is supposed to be super, super smart, but he falls for dumb shit when he gets kind of distracted. He turns around and he sees an ink block, like a Rorschach, and it's clearly a bat, but like it's supposed to not be a bat. It's supposed to be an ink blot.
It's
and he's
supposed to be
like
ambiguous.
Right. And he's like, oh, you got to think for bats? Dude, like, you should have known that you're the one that sees the bat. And she's like, do you have a thing for bats?
Because that's a Rorschach.
Boom, roasted, man. How'd you walk? You walked right into that.
Yeah.
You dumbass.
You know who you're with.
Yeah. And so he kind of like just tries to
play it
off, and he finds the doll. And he's like, oh, you got a thing for dolls too? Like, cool it, dude. But it's like this,
you got a thing for dolls.
It's like a dream catcher doll. right? And it's supposed to protect you from bad dreams, of which he's been having. He's having all these traumatic dreams.
Because
from,
he's
like,
Batman.
From like his childhood trauma. What I thought was kind of interesting, but also kind of distracting, is that the doll looks like Two-Face, because it's like right down the middle. But the whole point of this doll is supposed to be like the duality of Batman. Like, you have two sides of you that are clashing, and you don't have a real identity anymore because you don't know who you are.
Which I guess they kind of did with Two-Face.
But no, they didn't do that with Two-Face. Two-Face is just weird. Like, they write Two-Face off as just being like, oh, he's very one-dimensional, he's very crazy. If they had done it with Two-Face also, like, I think the bones of it are here. Like, if you
there's a duality with him in this movie. It's just so ridiculous and dumb that...
And it's all puns.
Yeah.
The entire movie, he talks in the second person, so he says we and us, referring to just himself. And when I was a kid, I thought he meant like his girlfriends, because he has two girlfriends in this, Drew Barrymore and the other one. But no, he's literally just talking about himself. He's like, we do this.
That part, I didn't really have a problem with.
No, it's fine. But it's, again, if they had done it better. So, like, obviously in The Dark Knight, they really do Two-Face justice.
I think he's a little too short-lived in Dark Knight. But
because
they kill him off like half an hour after he becomes the villain.
But his purpose in that movie is to
push Batman,
oppose Batman, and how their duality works.
Yeah. Thematically, they did him perfectly.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. They could have done something like that here, where Chase is studying Batman and his psyche and his duality. Mm-hmm. He's torn by that, and at the same time, he's fighting someone else who is literally defined by his duality. You know, that could have worked had they executed Two-Face better, but they don't. So, credit where credit's due. I love all this Chase and Bruce Wayne stuff. I love all of the kind of dissecting Batman psychologically. Right after that, she goes, oh, it protects you from bad dreams. Do you need one? I can give it to you. And he's like, like, I don't need that. And she, again, fucking calls him out. Like, she's like, I think that you understand repressed memories better than you let on, or something like that. Like, she's just calling him out left and right. And so he, again, plays it off and is like, can I take you out on a date?
You want to go to the circus?
And invites her to the circus, right?
And she goes.
Right. And then so we get to the circus, and that's where we meet the Flying Graysons. We see Robin and his origin
I actually
story.
like this.
I love this scene, except for the big, like, Adam West Batman round bomb.
Oh, yeah.
With a giant timer on it.
That was a little dumb.
Yeah.
So, but the whole, like, the sequence with the Flying Graysons, like, seeing Richard, as he's known at this time, not Dick.
Well, I mean, his name is Dick. Mm-hmm. They call him Dick the whole movie.
They call him Richard during this part. They're like, Richard Grayson.
Sure. But obviously his nickname is Nick. Back in the day, Richards used to go by Dick.
Yeah, I think so. I think some still do, but now you call someone a dick when they're being a dick.
Right, because you're talking about penises.
Yeah.
So that kind of ruined it for them. But
yeah, no, like we see Dick Grayson, his family. They're doing acrobats. They're pretty damn good.
Obviously, they're Flying Graysons. And he's got the Robin costume on. That's part of it. That's always been the origin.
Yeah.
Is that the Robin costume is the Flying Graysons costume.
It was his circus outfit.
Exactly. Two-Face shows up, takes over, all his goons are there, and they introduce a bomb. And they're like, this bomb's going to blow up unless Batman, because he's obsessed with Batman. He wants to, that's his plan, obviously. Because all the people are rich. And he's like, one of you knows who Batman is.
And he's like, odds are one of you is Batman.
Yeah, and Bruce is like, again, his identity is important to him, but also, like, if it means saving people, he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He will die right there on the spot. And he's basically like, hey, like, I'm Batman, hello. And everyone's freaking out. No one can hear him or whatever. So he tries to at least go fight some goons, save the day.
Yeah.
The Graysons are like, hey, we can probably get this bomb out of here. So they start doing acrobatics up in the rafters to get the bomb out, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah. They're heroes.
All that part was cool. Like you said, this scene is cool.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite scene in the movie, actually.
Yeah. Dick takes the bomb to the top of the building and just throws it out into the water where it explodes. Not a big explosion.
No.
I was kind of bummed out by that. I was like, giant bomb. The scene is like 10 minutes long, and then the explosion's just kind of like...
Yeah, it's like a whole action set piece.
Yeah. In this time, Two-Face started shooting at the Graysons, and they all fell. Or they cut wires or something like that.
He killed everybody but Dick.
Yeah, so his parents and his brother are dead. He looks down. That's the sad part.
Yeah, and he starts like crying.
That scene's good. Yeah, like you said.
No, that scene is good.
Yeah.
He's a good actor, Chris O'Donnell.
He's all right.
In this scene, at least, he's a pretty damn good actor.
He's
but then
good
I'll say in the rest of like Batman, like when he's Robin, I'm like, you just kind of seem like a whiny bitch.
Yeah, I think it could have been written a little bit differently, and I think it could have been directed a little bit better, because there are some scenes that he's really, really good in, and there's some other ones where I'm like, oh.
Like he's just kind of running around yelling things.
Yeah, exactly. So Bruce Wayne, for some reason, like adopts him or something. Like he just, I guess, invites him to stay.
He probably
there.
Feels a certain kinship with him at this point.
Oh, no,
Because
obviously.
it's literally the same thing that happened to him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he definitely wants to like guide him into not becoming
a vengeance obsessed.
Exactly. Which he kind of ends up being anyway. But he gets to the Wayne Manor and he's basically like, hey, like, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
I'm out of here, dumbass. We start seeing Bruce Wayne having the nightmares. Something that we were talking about, the connectivity between the other films. They match the scene because he's having nightmares of
his parents
dying, which was shown in the first movie, and it's Jack Napier, young Jack Nicholson Joker, right?
Yeah.
And they match that scene. It's a reshoot, but they match it up, and now there's a lot of like smoke because it's hazy, because it's a nightmare, and you remember certain things.
He's kind of like in a daze, and Alfred's like near him, and he says something like, I killed them. I don't know why he said I killed them.
He says, I killed them. Two-Face killed them. And Alfred calls him out. He's like, no, you said I killed them. And he's like, kind of doesn't think about it. And it's because he feels guilt over
what happened.
What happened, because Two-Face was there solely to get him.
Here's the thing, though. He was trying to give himself up.
Yeah, but he didn't succeed. So he still feels guilt that he didn't do enough
to save.
Now
that kid's parents are dead.
Yeah, he's just created another one of himself.
Yeah.
While he's doing this.
He feels
just
responsible
guilty, and he feels
for
responsible.
what happened to.
There was some really good Alfred and Robin stuff here, too, because Alfred shows him his room.
I feel like they get along pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Alfred's also the best.
Like, they're both
Alfred's
nice guys.
the best.
Yeah. Dick tells him to throw away his...
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to need this anymore.
Yeah.
And Alfred's like, you know what? I'll just put it right here. Or like he puts it in a drawer.
Yeah, he's like, your wounds are going to heal, and one day, like,
you might need
Robin is going to fly again, because Robin is something that his parents called him. Meanwhile, Batman is, like, out on the streets, because Two-Face is doing shit, and he does this old lady bit where he pretends to be an old lady with a carriage. This is just another Joker bit, because he's doing Joker bits left and right.
Yeah.
But also, Green Goblin does this. Remember that part in Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Just pretends to be an old lady.
It was better when Green Goblin did it than this, too, though.
Was it? It's about the same, I think. And then there's like a short chase scene, and then the Batmobile crawls up a wall. How'd you feel about that?
I've seen the Batmobile do stuff like that in like other media, but I don't know. It looked weird in this movie.
But where's it going?
Oh, I have no idea.
What's
it went up the wall and disappeared.
Yeah, what's it going to do when it gets to the top of the building? You know, like...
fall the fuck down.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Batmobile can do whatever the fuck the plot demands it to do.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Riddler's trying to figure out his name. He's like in his like little apartment.
The jokester.
And pretty much, like, both these guys are just jokers. Like, let's be for real. Because Riddler, I mean, I get that it's Jim Carrey, he's making jokes, but it just feels kind of Joker to me. But
he says a bunch of names like the Gamester, Question Mark Man.
And he just lands on Riddler. You've already written 2 riddles, so why was this so hard?
Yeah, I thought you were smart.
Yeah. So he figures out he's going to be the Riddler and sneaks into Two-Face's lair.
He also cut his hair? Did he cut his hair?
Oh, I don't know, because his hair, this is something I was wondering, goes back and forth between short, long, red, and natural colored, like 4 times in this movie.
You think...
It's long and naturally red. Then it's the second time we see him, it's long and dyed red. Then it's short dyed red. Then it's short natural colored. Then it's long red again.
Do you think that was intentional?
I have no fucking idea. I mean, it had me confused the entire time.
Because I remember there's a part where his head is like almost shaved, but it's red. Like it's like super short hair.
Yeah, it's like inch long.
Yeah.
Then we see him after that when he's just pretending to be like a normal person, not the Riddler.
He could have a wig there.
His hair's longer, yeah. So I guess. But then it's long red again.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's nonsense. It's total nonsense.
Maybe there was something behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Sure. But that's when he sneaks into the lair and Two-Face is just being... Again, I like the lines. And I like Tommy Lee Jones as an actor, but this is horrible. But he convinces him to join forces.
And this is after he does like another like split personality bit where like one girl's like, oh, I made your favorite food. And it's like something that sounds really delicious. And the other girl's like, oh, I made your favorite food. And it's like a bunch of burnt shit.
Again, there's stuff in this movie that's clearly for the kids and stuff that's for the adults.
I'm not even sure I liked that as a kid.
I think I did. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's it's not homogeneous. This movie is not at all. I think this scene is for the kids, this scene is for the adults. The psychology shit, that just went over my head as a kid. I had no idea what was going on.
Well, then you have the flying Grace and shit too, which was kind of dark for this movie, actually.
Sure, but at least kids could maybe kind of relate. I don't know.
Well, Disney kills parents all the time, so.
Oh, yeah, they're used to it. So he convinces Two-Face to help steal enough capital so he can start his business, Nigmatech, and make the boxes. And each box is going to go on TVs all around Gotham so people can watch TV interactively, like VR, basically.
Yeah, and he'll use that technology to obviously drain all of their intelligence.
Exactly.
Which, you know what? Okay, I get it. You want to be the smartest guy, but you're already creating a tech company that becomes bigger than Wayne Enterprises, and
arguably,
you're not satisfied with that?
Sure. Well, again, he has an obsession. He's obsessed with Bruce Wayne. He wants to be smarter than Bruce.
I guess the thing with Batman villains is like there's something like fundamentally broken in their mind.
Right. Dick Grayson is doing laundry. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. All right, so they're doing the laundry, and then Alfred says something along the lines of, oh, hey, you need help with that? And he's like, no, it's all right, Al. I'm not used to people waiting on me. And then he, like, pulls his clothes out of the washer and starts, like, swinging them around and doing karate with them.
He starts doing karate moves with his laundry to hang up his laundry because I guess he's cool. And like, this is for kids. This is for the kids to be like, that guy's cool. I want to be Robin. But like, there's a guitar solo in the background. Like, it is by far the cringiest scene in any of this movie. Doesn't he get
like a shirt and he like flips around like it's nunchucks?
He does that,
and then he throws it on like the drying rack.
Yeah, and then he stretches it out with his foot. By the way, I don't know if you noticed that. And then he takes a shirt that's too wet, so he wrings it out, and makes a huge mess
on the floor,
and then mops it up all cool, flips the mop. It is so cringy.
Mopping isn't cool.
Look up this scene on YouTube.
Can I put a link to it?
I might link it. Yeah, I might link it.
It's so fucking bad.
Cringy.
No words.
Right. Dick Grayson is obsessed with this one door in the mansion that he can't get into. Obviously, it's the entrance to the Batcave.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a regular door. It's not the Iron Maiden anymore.
I like the Iron Maiden.
Sure, but I think this is the way that Alfred was getting in. Like,
well, yeah, because Alfred will be like, you know what? I'm just gonna go take the stairs.
I'm taking the stairs like a normal human, and that's where this door is. He tricks Alfred. He's like on like the third floor on a corridor. And Alfred's about to go to the Batcave, so he's like, hey, like, Dick, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm way up here. And he's like, okay, cool. But the door just swings so slowly. And Dick Grayson...
It's dramatic.
Right. And Dick Grayson does all these acrobatic moves, like swinging on curtains and on chandeliers.
To get down from the third floor.
Exactly. And then lands into the door, slides, and falls down the stairs. Alarms are going off. He has now infiltrated the Batcave.
Intruder alert.
Yeah. And fucking...
And Alfred's like, fuck, I let someone else in the Batcave.
Alfred's like 0 for 3, by the way. He is not good at this. Yeah. Bruce is on a date with Chase at her apartment. And he's basically getting free therapy here. Because he's telling her about his dreams and how he has the same dream, but sometimes he's awake. And now he's seeing things that he didn't remember before. Like now he sees this book. And she's like, dumbass, you're having repressed memories. Like, this is classic. You have trauma you need to deal with. Again, I really like all this Batman getting therapy. Like, this is all very necessary.
He needs to, like, actually make appointments, though.
Yeah, right. He's just dating this bitch. But then his Apple Watch goes off. He gets, like, a FaceTime from Alfred. And I'm like, that's real technology. Like, that didn't exist at the time. But that's real stuff that exists right now. And it literally looks just like that.
Yeah.
You know, I like when these movies try to predict the future, get it right.
Power Rangers kind of did it too with the communicators.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, for sure.
When Zordon calls them, like, Rangers, we need you. Okay, Zordon.
So he messages Bruce Wayne. He's like, hey, we got a problem. I need you to come. And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, Dick stole a car. And he's like, oh, like the Rolls Royce?
He's like, no, the other car. The Bentley?
The other car.
And then Bruce is like, ah, fuck.
That one. He goes on a joyride, gets in a fight with the fucking Neon Gang.
He claims that he's Batman.
Yeah.
The Neon Gang.
Because remember, at nighttime, everything's fucking neon lights.
Yeah, this is the weird, like, 90s cyberpunk aesthetic.
It's very cyberpunk.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And he fucking tries to fight them. He didn't take a Batsuit on his way out.
He says he's Batman, and then
like,
they laugh at him, more like Batboy. And he's like, what? I forgot the suit.
Big deal. And so he sort of fights them, and then obviously Batman shows up, saves the day.
Yeah.
And is like yelling at him and back in the Batcave, and he's like, hey, like, you have no right to tell me what I can't do. Like, I can help you. Like, I can be, you can help me. You're Batman. You can help me get Two-Face.
Well, doesn't he also get upset at him because, sort of put some blame on him for his parents? at this point a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah, that's when he starts punching him.
Yeah.
He's punching him, and he's like, this is all your fault. Like, you killed him. This is on you. Batman kind of agrees with him.
No, he's like,
yeah.
dude, you're right. He says, if Bruce Wayne could have died to save your parents, he would have.
I like all of this because Bruce explains to him that killing Harvey won't help him, and he knows this from personal experience. Yeah. I feel like this works in two ways because on one hand, it kind of acknowledges that he murdered a bunch of people in the last two movies, and now maybe he
also killed the Joker in the first one.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And Penguin, sort of? And a bunch of Penguin's goons? Like...
Yeah.
So,
but with the Joker one, like, that was the guy that killed his parents. Like, he got his revenge. It didn't make him feel any better.
Yeah, exactly. I think specifically that's what he's saying. Because, remember, Batman is supposed to have, like, this no-kill rule. And they ignore that for two movies. And I think now they're like, well, I mean, this is the part where he learns his lesson. And now he's like, no-kill.
He's regaining a little bit of his humanity.
Right. And he's like, this is not going to help you, you know? But on the other hand, he's telling him, like, hey, revenge is not the answer. Like, you think it's going to solve your problem, but then you're going to get it, and it's only going to make you feel worse.
Yeah, and you're going to want more.
Yeah, and you're going to keep seeking out more and more and more vengeance, but nothing makes you feel better. And he's basically admitting to him, again, free therapy, he's admitting to him that he's doing no better as Batman now.
Yeah.
Like,
it didn't make him feel better.
Yeah, he's in a vicious cycle. Crime isn't getting any better, probably.
No.
He's not getting any better. Why should he even continue being Batman?
Could be argued that crime's getting worse.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, he's creating his own villains at this point.
Yeah.
So, Enigma Tech just blows up. There's like a montage.
Yeah. It literally becomes like bigger than Wayne Enterprises.
He's selling the box. Everybody wants the box. He holds this big gala. Invites Bruce Wayne, obviously. I love how he tries to keep being like Bruce Wayne. So they meet. And he brings Chase Meridian.
His date.
Yeah, and so he needed a date, so he borrows Drew Barrymore, who's like the good girlfriend to Two-Face.
Oh, yeah.
And then like he has to read something, he puts on like his glasses, and Edward puts on his glasses. He takes the glasses off,
He's like
takes
trying
his
to be like
off.
him.
Yeah.
No, this little bit was fun.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't feel Riddler-y, though. It feels almost Joker-y.
No, because he's obsessed with Bruce. Not Batman. And that's the thing about
I think I'm talking
this.
more about the mannerisms.
Maybe, yeah. Again, it's Jim Carrey, and it feels like maybe he'd be a better Joker than a Riddler.
He probably would.
He probably would have, honestly.
I think he would have been better than Jack Nicholson.
Absolutely. I'm 100% there. I did not like Jack Nicholson that much.
Give us a Jack Nicholson Riddler.
Jack Nicholson Riddler.
That might work, actually.
Oh, maybe. But they're at the gala, and he is introducing the next big tech that Enigma Tech came up with. And it's an even more kind of virtual reality type hallucinogenic TV experience. And so you go in there and basically everything just feels real. It's all your fantasies. Like they put Commissioner Gordon and like he's surrounded by beautiful women and he's on a beach or whatever. Commissioner Gordon's such a patsy and everything. Like he's always at all these events.
Yeah.
Why are you working? Like go do work. In the first one, he was doing work in the first movie.
Yes.
And now he's just kind of like, well,
in fuck. In the first one, he was like in the field.
Yeah. And now he's like, well, fuck, where's Batman? I don't know. Like,
all I do is turn on the light, man.
Yeah. And so Enigma is challenging Bruce to like try out his machine because he wants to learn all the secrets of Bruce Wayne. Again, the Riddler is after Bruce Wayne, not Batman, because he wants revenge on Bruce Wayne for shutting him down.
Yeah.
But Two-Face wants Batman. They don't know they're one and the same, that they're actually after the same goal. So Two-Face shows up, just fucking crashes the party. Bruce Wayne had stepped into that machine because he was curious, but he also thought it was powered off. Gets powered on. He also kind of wants to solve his fucking, like, nightmare problems. And unfortunately, he was in there long enough where Riddler now is going to steal all his, like, secrets, like his brain and everything, all his memories and stuff like that. Because I guess that's something that happens in this movie.
Yeah, it's like now he can read minds. Yeah,
but he sneaks out of it in time to go change into Batman and, you know, start fighting all the goons like always. But Dick Grayson is there and he goes out to the car right afterwards and he's like, hey, Alfred, like, get me my suit. And Alfred's totally encouraging this. And he's like, oh, yeah, here. And he puts on his Robin suit, like the one from like his tights and stuff like that. It's all fabric. And Alfred goes, I could be fired for this, sir. Perhaps they'll have me back at Buckingham Palace. What did he do to get fired from Buckingham Palace? That maybe he's like wanted and that's why he has to be with Batman at this point.
That's why he worked for the Waynes.
Yeah. The only ones who will take him to commit crimes. Did you catch the Indiana Jones reference?
I don't think I did.
Batman's fighting all the goons, and one guy pulls out these knives.
Oh.
And he's like, he does all these moves with the knives, and Batman just like kicks him and runs away. And it's the
reference to when Indy shoots the guy with the sword.
The swords. Yeah. I like how in all these movies, Batman's only entrance is to break the skylights and enter from above.
He just crashes through.
He's done it like 4 times at this point. And he does in the next movie he does it like 3 more times.
I guess it's his thing.
Yeah. Basically, he gets chased out into like a basement. A bunch of gas is going at him, and Two-Face lights it on fire. But Batman, obviously, ever the prepared Batman, throws his cape around him and like hits like a thermal protection button and survives the fire.
Yeah.
I like the bit where Two-Face is like, "Why won't you just fucking die?" But he gets buried pretty like in gravel.
Yeah.
Which is, that will kill you. Like, it'd be difficult to get out of that.
Yep. Luckily,
even for Batman.
Our friend Dick Grayson shows up.
Yeah. Trapezing for no reason. You didn't have to do that. You could have just walked on the gravel. But he's trapezing and he, like, saves
him. He pulls him up, and then Batman's pissed at him.
Obviously, he's like, why are you doing that? Like, I'm trying so hard to not make you a Batman. And yet, here you are being a Batman.
Yep.
And I like the part where Bruce Wayne calls out Alfred. He's like, you're helping him.
Yeah. And then Alfred kind of fires back.
I love it because he says something along the lines of like,
you don't give encouragement to people that want revenge. You give them guidance.
Right. He's basically saying, like, you can't stop him from wanting revenge. What you can do is guide him in the right direction.
Yeah.
And this is what I've done to you your whole life. And yeah, it led you to being Batman, but the alternative was that you become a criminal, like a murderer.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, arguably he already is. But
he's a rich murderer.
I like that this Alfred, because we were talking about all the different Alfreds in, I think, the first Batman episode.
Yeah.
But this one seems to not be the kind of Alfred that is trying to talk Batman out of being Batman.
No, he's just trying to talk him into being whatever's best for Bruce.
Yeah. I think he understands that
he needs to be Batman.
That there's no alternative.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I'm going to help him be the best Batman and stay on the like path of righteousness and not derail. Because there's a couple times where he says, I was so afraid that you'd fall into the darkness. And I thank God you never did. You know?
This has become my favorite Alfred.
It really grew on me and I wasn't expecting it because I thought it was more of just a butler. He's also one of the only
characters that's the same
actor
consistently through.
Yeah. So yeah, I really think this gives what's his face? I think it gives him a run for his money.
Michael Caine?
Michael Caine.
Oh, I think he does. Yeah. I like him better, actually.
Well, again, they're different philosophies.
Right.
Michael Caine's like, I can't help you kill yourself. I refuse to take part in this. While this one's like, if I don't help you, you're going to become the very villains that you're fighting.
This Alfred wants to take care of Bruce till the very end.
Yeah. I mean, I like them both, but this one, it really grew on me throughout these movies, for sure. Oh, and during all this, Val Kilmer is shirtless. So we get Return of Nudity Minute. We got abs.
Yeah, we haven't had that in a while.
We got abs. And he's ripped. Like, good for him. I'm glad we didn't see Michael Keaton shirtless.
I don't think he was ripped.
I don't believe he's in Batman shape ever.
I think he was just looks average man.
Yeah, he looks really skinny, just kind of average. But Val Kilmer looks good, and I mean, that's who he was at the time. I mean, Top Gun was not that far before this.
No.
So, and he was ripped in that too, obviously. Volleyball scene. So, the return of the abs. But that's just going to carry into our next scene where we get some tastefully implied nudity.
Oh.
Yeah, your favorite term.
Tasteful implied nudity.
Yeah, because he goes and visits Chase as Batman because Batman... Also, Chase kind of like, you know what, I'm going to be fair, I'm going to play it both ways. When we did Ghost Rider, I was like, hey, like, Ghost Rider shouldn't just, like, run up and kiss whoever he wants. Chase Meridian grabs Batman and just kisses him.
Yeah.
In the gala scene when she got saved by him, and she's like, hey, come to my apartment at midnight, so we can fuck. And so he gets there and she's straight up naked, left the door wide open for him to come in, but she's like in her sheets. And so she walks out. She brings the whole sheets with her, obviously. Tasteful implied nudity. And they like make out. And then this is the part where I'm like, you're kind of making her into like this preteen who doesn't know what she wants. She wants this boy or she wants that boy. Because she's like, this is crazy. Like, you're here and I have you, but I don't want you anymore. I'm kind of in love with someone else. And she's like in love with Bruce Wayne.
And you can tell he's kind of like excited by that.
He's like solves
all my problems. I understand.
Sweet. I did not want to deal with this. Crazy bitch in love with Batman and not Bruce Wayne. Like, this is awesome. This works out for me just fine. And you get the part where he turns around and he does a real dumbass smile, which is like a meme now.
That smile reminds me, I don't think I like the way Val Kilmer looks in the mask. Something about his mouth is weird to me.
I kind of agree with you, but I don't think it's the mouth.
What is it?
I think that he's so clean shaven. You know when you shave your beard off, your lips look weird because you're not used to seeing them like that?
Yeah.
They're almost like too pink and you're like, why are my lips so pink? And then people are going to be like, why are your lips so pink? Are you okay? I think that's kind of it, where he looks so pink and so cleanly shaven, and his lips are shaped in such a way that he kind of looks like a girl when you cover up the rest of his face.
But also, like, not really, because he's still Val Kilmer.
He's obviously Val Kilmer, but there's a couple pictures.
There's just something that looks weird.
Yeah. There's a couple pictures where if I told you, hey, that's a girl in a Batman suit, you'd be like, oh shit, really? And you look and be like, oh wait.
No, that's just Val Kilmer.
Yeah. So the first, again, there's two suits. The first one works a lot better, I think, than the second one. I think if he had a little bit of stubble, it would have worked a little bit better.
It'd also make him look a little tougher.
Right. Like Ben Affleck Batman, who always has a little bit of stubborn. He's going to fucking murder you.
I like Ben Affleck Batman.
Yeah. He's at least intimidating.
I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but he's cool.
Have you been on Twitter? It's a very popular opinion. Everyone loves Ben Affleck Batman.
They don't like the movies.
The movies are divided, obviously.
Right.
And
I'm not a huge fan of the movies, but him as Batman?
Sure. Awesome. Amazing, yeah. Anyway, well, I think when we finish, we'll rank all the Batman.
All the Batman?
Yeah, I think we should do that next week. So he goes back to the Batcave and he tells Dick, like, hey, I'm done being Batman. It's over.
Which is very abrupt.
It was very abrupt. And then I thought about it. I'm like, it actually kind of works because the arc that he's following is that he has all this repressed memories and all this trauma. And he thought being Batman was going to solve that. And it didn't. And only by seeing it in Robin is he starting to figure it out. But before, he kind of didn't have anything to risk. Batman doesn't care about his own life. He doesn't care if he dies. That's not something he's concerned about. He's pretty much already dead inside, right? But now that Robin's involved, he feels a lot more responsibility. So he kind of has put a face onto innocence, right? He can see an innocent person becoming like a dark, corrupt psychopath like he is as Batman. And that's when he's like,
no, I can't do this.
I can't do this to you. And Chase is coming over and I'm going to tell her everything. And I'm going to shut it all down. He's like, all right, fuck
tell her I was Batman, but not anymore.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, he's telling his girlfriend that he's Batman. When has he ever done this before? Like
literally every movie. Every girlfriend girlfriend he's had.
Every woman he meets, he's like,
Bruce
hey,
is a
by
very,
the way, I'm
trusting
Batman.
man, I guess. And none of them expose the secret.
Sure, because she comes over, and by the way, it's Halloween. This is a Halloween movie, everybody.
Now it's a Halloween movie. All right, we should have done this in October.
Yeah, seriously. And he's like, I want to tell you something I've never told anyone before. And I'm like, you've told everybody. What are you talking about? But he's specifically not talking about being Batman. He's talking about this, like, dream that he's having. Again, free therapy. I really like all this flashback stuff where it's at the wake and he falls into the cave. He sees the bat and he's about to tell her. But she's just, I guess, she's a bad doctor because she's like, so...
Not letting him talk.
Yeah, and she kisses him again. And she's like, he's about to have a breakthrough right here and you kind of ruined it. But by kissing him, I guess implies that she recognizes the kiss because she had just made out with Batman the night before.
Yep.
So she looks at him and she kind of smiles. They're about to be like, oh my God, like you're Batman. But then they get attacked by Riddler and Two-Face because obviously they know that
Bruce Wayne is...
Yeah, Bruce Wayne is Batman. He figured it out because he had his memories.
Yeah, and he saw the bat in his mind.
I skipped a riddle.
You skipped a riddle?
Fuck. Okay, so we're going to do 2 riddles right now. So yeah, Riddler and Two-Face show up. Riddler basically tells Two-Face, we're not going to kill anybody. Just sit here and wait. So Two-Face is just sitting there like a little boy, like on a bench, while Riddler has a whole Jim Carrey episode and blows up the whole Batcave, right? Meanwhile, Bruce has to fight all of the goons. All these goons are clearly like not good fighters, and it's kind of like...
Yeah.
It's kind of campy in how they follow him around and he gets away. But also, it made me feel weird because the choreography on Bruce's end is really good, but the choreography for all the goons is really bad. So Two-Face is sitting here flipping his coin because he doesn't care. He basically is like, I'm going to keep flipping until I get the other side so I can go kill people. That's not how chance works. If you keep on going until you get the result you want.
Like, of course you're obviously going to eventually get that result.
Exactly. You're not leaving anything up to chance. But so he's like, oh shit, I get to shoot Bruce Wayne now. Shoots him in the fucking face, by the way. Bullet like grazes his head. So the Batcave's blowing up. They kidnap Chase. Bruce is passed out, wakes up, and Alfred's like, hey, everything sucks now. By the way, there's another riddle. So we get to the final riddle, but I skipped a riddle, so let's go back. Okay, so the third riddle, the 8 of us go forth and back to prevent our king from the foe's attack. Oh, you don't know this one?
No, is it Pawn?
It is Pawns.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was given the 5 seconds.
Oh, okay, go. I thought you were thinking about it.
No. I was counting the 5, but yeah,
chess pawns. That was pretty easy too, actually.
Yeah.
These aren't that hard.
No.
The next one's a little bit more difficult. So the final riddle, This is absolutely my favorite riddle. We're 5 little items of an everyday sort. You'll find us all in a tennis court. So this is definitely the hardest one. But pause. Try to figure it out.
We're 5 little items. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
Oh, well, think. You can't figure it out? 5 little items of an everyday sort. You'll find us all in a tennis court. This is like the most legitimate riddle because you have to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Like, that's how riddles are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be, like, straightforward.
No, the other ones are pretty straightforward. No, this one's, like, actually a riddle.
Yeah.
You'll find us in
a tennis court. You don't know it? Do you want me to?
Yeah, just go ahead and
Okay,
say it.
it's vowels.
Vowels.
A tennis court has all 5 vowels one time in order.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Isn't that cool?
It was the letters. Yeah.
A, T, E, and an I, C, O, U, or T. A tennis court.
It's weird that he calls them little items, though.
When you write them down, they're small, right?
Yeah. I think it's just the fact, like, items. When you think items, you think, like, actual objects.
Well, sure, but it's a riddle.
That's the point of the riddle, though, yeah.
And that's the riddle. So Bruce Wayne is faced with 4 riddles now, and he's like, what do these have in common? Him and Alfred are going back and forth. And Alfred's supposed to be really smart, too.
Yeah. And there's, like, a whole scene of them just trying to figure this out. Yeah.
I like this part. Again, he's being a detective. Also, this is Riddler's bit. He's telling you how to beat him. He's giving you the answers. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah. He's also telling you who he is.
Exactly. That's the answer to the riddle. So he figures out all these riddles have numbers in them. And so when you put them in order, it's 13, that was the clock, 1, 8, and 5. And he's like, what could these be? And I had forgotten what the answer was. And I was like, oh, this is probably the alphabet, right? So you're signing letters. Because that's how I feel like all, like, that's what, like, coding and stuff, right? I paused it because I was like, I want to figure this out. And I did it. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense because it's M, A, H, and E. And that doesn't fucking spell anything. And then I played it. And he's like, well, that doesn't work. And Bruce Wayne's like, well, the 1 and the 8 might be 18. I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm an idiot. So it's M-R-E, Mr. E. And it's like, oh, it's Mr. E.
It's like Mr. E and then Enigma.
How do they get Enigma?
I'm trying to remember.
They go Mr. E.
Because I'm trying to remember the scene.
Oh, because it's mystery.
Mystery, mystery.
Mr. E, mystery. Another word for a mystery is enigma.
Is an enigma.
Mr. E,
Mr.
enigma.
E, enigma.
Edward Enigma.
Edward Enigma.
That's a stretch, I think.
That's a stretch.
That's not a good riddle, but it's a good plot device, I think.
It's a great plot device, yeah.
So he's like, all right, sweet. I know where to go now.
Because, like, at the end there, they just kind of magically figured it out.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch. That's not believable.
Unless he's just that genius.
Again, a tennis court, best riddle ever.
That one is good.
So he's like, oh, all the Batsuits are destroyed. What are you going to do? He's like, oh, do you have that experimental one with the sonar? This is how he gets his second Batsuit, which fucking blows. Because the first one is so beautiful, and this one is like really silver. It's very silver and very reflective.
Yeah.
So it's not like the black one in any way. So he suits up in this Batsuit. Again, all these pictures are linked below. And this one looks much worse on him because it's bulky and it makes his head look really small. I don't know.
Val Kilmer already has a small head.
No, but he looks great in the first suit. He looks horrible in this one. So, and then Robin shows up and he has his suit too.
I like Robin's suit.
It's amazing.
Like, it's his Flying Grayson suit, but armored.
It's the Robin suit. But it's just so good looking. I don't know.
It looks good on screen.
It looks really good on screen. The only fault, I think, is that it's like a rubber. So all the reasons we do or do not like the other Batsuits, it's just the Robin version of that. But since we are in this universe where that's what Batsuits look like, fuck, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. The only thing is, and this caught a lot of flack, is what they call a codpiece. Do you know what a codpiece is?
Is that...
So, like, in, like, the Victorian era, like, the aristocrats, like, the rich people would wear, like, these pants that had a little pouch for your balls to sit in.
Oh.
Like, you could see the person's balls because the fabric goes around it. And so that's a cod piece. So what they're saying is, like, instead of, like, a cup or, like, I don't know, like a regular crotch area in their suits, it's very much like cupping their balls.
Oh. I didn't notice that.
I only notice it when it's pointed out to me because check it out. It's especially noticeable in Robin's.
Oh.
It's like real bulgy.
It looks like he's hanging dong.
Yeah. Batman's isn't that bad. But Robin's is really bad.
It just looks like a red dick.
Well, I mean, he kind of is a red dick. Get it? His name is Dick. He's red. Okay. So I love this part because he goes, all right, well, Batmobile's destroyed, but also he's on a weird layer island. Should we take the new bat plane, which hangs upside down like a bat, which I thought was kind of cool too, but it's also old
dumb.
CGI.
It's old dumb. It's cool, but it's dumb.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's on brand at this point.
Yeah.
They're already kind of moving the line a little bit. Or boat. And that's why he's like, let's do both. And I'm like, why did any of this shit get blown up? I thought he blew everything up. He forgot the giant plane and the giant boat. Yeah. So, anyway. So there's a bat plane, bat boat. They both take one.
And then, meanwhile, Gordon and the cops have the bat signal. They're like, he's not coming. And then here comes the plane dropping out. And they're like, yeah.
They're like, yeah. And then he turns around and he starts shaking his cops' hands like they did a goddamn thing. You do your jobs, man. Go be cops. The cops don't do anything anymore. They've completely relied on Batman.
Oh, yeah, we called Batman. We're good. Let's go.
Like, it'd be one thing if they were just cheering. They start shaking each other's hands like, job well done. Let's go to bed now. Batman's got this.
All we had to do is turn on the light.
So they get to... Again, this is where it gets really silly. I mean, everything the villains do in this movie is silly, but it gets especially silly
like the climax for all of these movies are pretty fucking silly, though.
Yeah. Riddler and Two-Face sit down at a table, and they're playing Battleship, but it's real because each piece shoots off mines.
Yeah. And they blow up Robin.
And they blow up Robin's boat real quick. Robin goes... There's a weird chain of events here because Robin falls underwater. He's got his, in Batman lore, it's called a rebreather. So...
I think they call it in Star Wars, too.
Is that what they call it in Star Wars? Am I mixing those up?
You might be.
No, in Batman...
Unless it's called that in Batman as well.
I'm pretty sure... Okay, we're on the Batwiki.
Because in episode 1, they're like, here, use this rebreather.
I don't think they call
it that.
When
they go to Utaganga.
It's called a rebreather. See? He uses it in all the
comics. It even
comics.
looks like the Star Wars one.
He uses it in Suicide Squad. Anyway, but so all the goons happen to be there in scuba suits.
Yeah.
How did they know to be right there at that exact time? You know what I mean? And so they're all wrestling underwater, which is not an efficient way of capturing somebody.
No.
So Batman shows up. He gets shot out of his plane too, I think. Bat boat, bat plane, they both blow up immediately.
Yeah.
He swims over, he gets a grappling hook, he saves Robin, and then he throws a net on all the other guys who are just kind of floating there. It was just a very strange series of events.
Yeah.
But they climb onto the island. From here on in is complete nonsense, right? And it's going to sound like nonsense if you didn't watch this movie.
Holy rusted metal, Batman.
Yeah. He says, right, they're leaning more and more into this Adam West stuff because that's such a, Burt Ward line. But then they have to, explain it.
Yeah, and then Batman's like, what?
He's like, why the fuck did you say that?
And he goes, no, the metal, it's rusted and there's holes in it.
No, it's...
it's holy.
It's holy, yeah. Okay.
It was clearly just put in there as a reference.
Right. The island just starts lifting up and it goes 300 feet in the air.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, Batman climbs in. Robin doesn't make it. Two-Face shows up. They start fighting with each other.
And Robin beats the shit out of him. Almost kills him.
Almost kills him, but then decides, hey...
I'm going to show mercy.
Yeah. I'm not going to do it. I don't want revenge. Batman's right. And saves him.
And then Two-Face is like, ha, idiot. Now I'm going to capture you.
Yeah, he gets captured. Batman climbs up a series of different booby traps and spikes and nonsense. Makes it all the way to the top and falls into the Riddler's... It's like a game show that he's created, which is very, 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 very Joker. This is not a Riddler thing to do at all. This is a very Joker thing to do.
Especially the way he's playing it up.
Right. And so he's on one side, you've got Robin. On the other side,
you've got Chase,
your girlfriend. I'm going to kill them both. I'm going to drop them down this very long chasm that we...
They do touch on the duality of Batman here, though, because he's like, I've got Bruce Wayne's girlfriend here, Chase, blah, 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 blah.
Sure, yeah.
And Batman's, assistant.
Right. He says junior partner.
Junior partner.
It's like a lawyer firm. Anyway, so he's basically like, hey, I'm going to drop them both. You have to pick who you're going to save.
Yeah. And Batman's like, you're just going to kill all of us anyway.
Yeah, this is not a good situation to be in. But I've got a riddle for you. It's not a good riddle.
It's a terrible riddle.
It's a really bad riddle, Batman. I think Batman isn't a creative person. I think he's very, analytical and he's smart. But maybe he's not, he can't think outside. I don't know. Yeah. So he says...
I see without seeing. To me, darkness is as clear as daylight. What am I?
Right. On the other hand, I don't think it was supposed to be a difficult riddle.
No.
Because...
And then he just goes
Riddler just immediately says...
You're blind as a bat.
Exactly.
And then Batman goes, exactly.
And he flips the sonar, because this is supposed to be the sonar suit.
Yeah.
And these little things come up in front of his eyeballs, like in The Dark Knight.
Yeah. And it gives him, the white eyes.
Yeah, sure. And he gets a batarang that I guess he's controlling with sonar. But not really. What does the suit do?
He just throws a batarang.
He just throws a batarang. So what was the point of the sonar suit?
Do the lights turn off?
No.
Oh, then I don't know.
Exactly. So he just throws a batarang because there's a lot of lights. There's just lights going everywhere.
He throws it at his box.
Which is right there. It's very vulnerable. And
And then he defeats the
Yeah,
Riddler.
and Riddler's just like, no, like, why did you make it so vulnerable?
And he gets mad and drops both of them, and Batman saves them both.
But also, did you notice that the floor disappeared?
Yeah.
Where did that go? How did they build this so quickly also? It's like a huge layer.
I don't know what the time frame of this movie is either, because he created
Is it
an entire
5 years?
He created an entire company.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, again, the third act is complete nonsense. But as a kid, I really liked this finale because he drops all of them, right? He jumps down. They're all falling.
Yeah.
He saves Chase first, grabs her grappling hook to a nearby thing, keeps going, and then does the same thing to him. They swing together, they catch each other, and I guess he takes him back up to where Chase is, and they're both kind of like, hey, look at us, we did it, we're alive. But then Two-Face shows up. How? That means he, like, the stairs? Did he take the, because they all fell.
Yeah, and he's like, let me flip a coin to see if I'm going to kill you or not. And then Batman throws a bunch of coins and then Two-Face fell.
Yeah. But also,
that's it.
Why didn't you flip the coin before you decide to go down all the stairs? Like, you made a big old trip.
Also, how did throwing all the coins cause him to, like, fall?
Because he's obsessed with the coin.
So he's like, I need that.
He needed to catch his own coin, and now there's so many coins that he's like, where are my coins? And he falls over. Pretty much kills him.
He died in the stupidest way, boss.
Yeah. But also, you're trying to teach Robin a lesson, like, you don't kill Two-Face, don't kill Two-Face. Hey, buddy, watch me kill Two-Face real quick.
I don't think he was trying to kill him, though.
He was, like, balancing on a beam. What do you think is going to happen if I throw a bunch of shit at you while you're balancing on a beam? You're going to fall. So he falls.
Maybe Batman was thinking, like, oh, now you don't know what to do. Also, did he, like, go and make these coins?
Yeah, he's always prepared. You know Batman.
Yeah, but they never show him getting prepared.
Right. So Robin gets some closure because he sees Two-Face is dead. They go back all the way up and they find the Riddler. His brain has gotten all of the information too quick, and now he's like completely warped.
Yeah, he's
mind.
even more wacko, as the word
right.
His
kind of
head
crazy.
Looks kind of weird now.
It's all elongated and weird. Yeah, it's okay makeup.
Yeah.
Finally, we see Arkham Asylum. I'm convinced because it looks like a Tim Burton prop.
That Arkham Asylum was originally going to.
I think that was the design for the last movie, and they didn't put it in that movie, and they just carried it over. Because it doesn't fit with the rest of this movie. It looks very Tim Burton when you see it. Everything's kind of crooked. There's a bunch of trees and lightning.
Well, it's also where they put all the wackos. So.
Well, no. I understand that it should look dark and stuff, but like that's not the same one we see in the next movie either.
No.
So that's why I think this was really a
it was
carryover.
Just leftover.
Yeah.
Saved some money.
Yeah. Well, not only that, the doctor's name is Dr. Burton. It's a reference to Tim Burton. So.
Okay. I also saw that Tim Burton was apparently a producer on this movie.
Yeah, but mostly in name.
He probably didn't have much involvement.
No, he really didn't. Chase is there to kind of investigate whether or not Riddler remembers.
Yeah, because he claims that he knows who Batman is.
Exactly.
So she goes and checks in on his cell, and she's like, can you please tell me who Batman is? And then he goes, I'm Batman. Ah!
He's like, okay, cool. Goes outside, sees Bruce, and is like, hey,
he's a wacko. You're good.
Yeah, you're good. No one's going to believe him, even if he does remember. So.
And then Bruce is like, yes.
And then she's like, I'm going to imply that we're going to get together, but then I'm also not going to be in the next movie. So have fun telling your next girlfriend that you're also Batman.
Yeah.
All right.
And then roll credits.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so moving on to our analysis portion. Thing is, though, we kind of talked a lot. We kind of analyzed a lot during the plot.
We did, which I feel like we tend to do that quite a bit. It's hard not to.
More this time. Usually we kind of focus on the plot. This time, I mean, we right off the bat, if you skip the plot, we talked in depth about our feelings about Gotham City, Batsuits, Batmobiles, Val Kilmer, the villains in this. We went through all of that during the plot section, which we usually wouldn't do. So, sorry, but just go back, I guess. There's new music.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Because you like the
I like
Danny Elfman.
I like the Danny Elfman. I like it. I still like it better.
The theme in this one is I already forgot. It's so forgettable.
It wasn't even as like noticeable. Like I barely noticed that it was even there.
It's in the menu on the DVD. But I think the theme is much worse overall. Like the Danny Elfman theme is better, but I don't hate the score at all because the theme is boring, but there's a lot of good, just kind of like action-y music going on, and it's all jazzy. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, like what's happening in this movie, it does enhance the scenes that it's a part of, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I can't remember I can't hum any of it to you right now. It's not in my head at all.
I can't either. Why not?
Unlike the Danny Elfman theme, which we know, and it's become a classic.
Yeah.
Literally have to look up the theme.
Because I remember it, but I forget it. That's why. There it is. Bum, 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 bum.
It sounds like it sounds like music that would be used in like the title screen of a video game.
So the theme is a little generic.
Yeah.
But like watching the movie and listening to the music, once the theme kind of goes away, the music gets better, which seems counterintuitive.
Well, it's kind of like I was saying, like the music's good for the movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, like, I wouldn't go and download this score anytime soon.
I might give it a shot. But like I said, it's very jazzy, and I think that's what I like about it. That it's different. It's not just kind of this orchestrated score. It's very brassy and saxophony.
They tried something new with it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So there's that. So we talked about the Batsuits. We talked about the nipples. If that's something you're interested in, go back to that part if you skip the plot. There's a lot of Dutch angles in this. I don't know if you noticed that. You noticed how...
I didn't, actually.
Really? This, and we watched Batman Returns too, or we watched Batman and Robins also. Dutch angles everywhere. So like every now and then, just the camera's tilted for.
Is it just a Schumacher thing?
I guess, like,
because it wasn't like indicating anything like wrong
it would just
going on.
Yeah,
or
it would just
anything.
happen at random times. The flashback scenes would have them. The action set pieces would have them. It was just kind of all over the place.
He just liked the way it looked, I guess.
Yeah, thought that was kind of weird. Like I was saying earlier, I really like all of the Batman stuff in this. I really like all the Bruce Wayne stuff in this. I think that's a major improvement from the last two.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, still not great, but I don't think any of these movies really have the love interest down packed.
Yeah, so love interest, there's a different one in every movie.
There's a different one in every movie, and also there never seems to be that much chemistry between any of them, actually. And I guess Chase was the closest that we got.
So I like her character. Like we were saying, it seems like they had to kind of sexy her up a bit. And also kind of towards the end make her this, like the damsel in distress. But the stuff in between, I think she's a strong character. I think she's a strong personality. I think she's like the strong woman. And she's trying to figure her shit out, but also she's trying to help Batman. And Bruce sees this and he's like, or help Bruce. And Bruce sees this and he's like, well, I'm going through something right now. How can I get her to help me?
Yeah.
You know, like I said, he's getting free therapy this whole movie.
And he even says something along the lines of like, he's talking to Alfred and he goes, Alfred, I've never been in love before. And he's talking about Chase. I guess he's like in love with her.
So I guess Vicky Vale and Catwoman are just...
Yeah, I guess they don't matter.
They don't matter. They're in the last movie. Continuity be fucked. Like,
better in this movie. Probably the best out of all four of these movies.
what, the female?
Yeah.
The love interest?
The
Yeah.
love interest.
Oh, absolutely.
But still not
Because Catwoman was
great.
Catwoman was fine, but she's also more of a villain than a love interest also. Just like
Yeah.
both. She's kind of...
She's like a love interest and like a foil
Exactly.
to Batman.
So I really like all of the psychology stuff in this. Again, kind of my favorite part about Batman is that he's out there fighting psycho villains when he himself is like not all there. Like he's not the straight man to go against all of these wacky villains. He also has something wrong with him.
No, he probably belongs in Arkham Asylum himself.
Sure. This movie does a lot of Alfred, like we were saying. Alfred is kind of playing off of him, saying like, you could be any of your villains. You could be the same as them, but you never made it there because you strayed the line and you stayed in like the righteous path.
Right.
But if you had just gone a little bit further, you could have gone down a dark path and become one of the very villains that you're putting away.
I'm sure a lot of that is thanks to Alfred as well.
Well, that's what we were saying, that Alfred is more kind of like enabling Batman, because I think he feels... this is the best way for Bruce to go, is to be Batman and to get like his angst out, you know, and get all his, purge all his emotions and his rage and his vengeance so that it doesn't consume him, right? In like a productive way. So I like all that stuff a lot. I think because of that, this is my favorite Batman movie of the series.
Okay.
I don't know where do you rank these? Like... I mean, maybe next week we'll talk more.
We should
about
probably
how we
rank them after we watch the last one, or after we talk about the last one.
Yeah, because it's unfair that we already watched the next one before we talk about it.
It has the stupidest moment in all of these movies, and we'll talk about that next
scene?
week. No, that's in this one.
Oh, yeah. What's the stupidest moment in the next one?
The Batman credit card.
No, the laundry scene is way worse.
The Batman credit card's pretty bad.
You know how when you cringe, sometimes you physically feel it, like you physically cringe? That's how I felt during the...
when Robin was doing his laundry?
Yeah. And the Batman credit card in the next movie, that's a gag. It's nowhere near as bad.
It's pretty fucking stupid, though.
Sure, but it gets me on this point that, like, people like to just say, like, oh, this movie's good, this movie's bad, whatever. But a movie is a lot more than just like the sum of its parts.
Right. No, even a bad movie can have some good things in it.
Yeah, it's overall an aggregate of some good things and some bad things. And some movies are very homogeneous, where like they're bad all the way through or they're good all the way through, and they're very easy to talk about in that sense. But a lot of movies lie somewhere in the middle where they might have good things and they may have bad things.
Right.
And your overall feeling is this kind of just combination of all of that together. But to say this movie is bad, I think is an oversimplification, is my point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you say this movie's bad, then you're focusing on the bad stuff while ignoring the good stuff. Like, the Riddler, I almost said the Joker because...
He's basically the Joker.
Yeah. Two-Face and the Riddler, they're kind of the bad parts of this film.
Which sucks because they're a major part of this film.
Exactly. Obviously, the villains are a major part of the film. So you can't always separate those things. But I think in this particular film, the good stuff outweighs the bad stuff. I love Batman in this movie. I love Bruce Wayne in this movie. I love Alfred. I like Robin a lot. I like Chase. I like everything that they're doing on their side. Everything that I almost said the Joker again. Everything that the Riddler and Two-Face are doing, that sucks.
Right.
I don't know how you feel about that.
With me in this movie, I like a lot of the ideas that were put into this movie. I don't like the execution necessarily. Like, I love how we have Batman meeting up with Dick Grayson, kind of taking him under his wing. Mm-hmm. His wing.
Sure. Yeah. Batwing.
I like that they're trying to delve a little bit more into Batman's mind.
Yeah.
I like that they tried to do that stuff. I don't necessarily like how it translated onto screen in this movie, because it felt like a little wishy-washy on some of it. At least as far as like the going into Batman's psyche. Like, it's like they took a step toward that direction and then just they didn't run with it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if this film had been a little bit longer or less concerned with some of the stupid stuff in it.
Well, they could have cut out a lot of like what the villains were up to.
That's honestly what I'm saying. Again, those are the parts of the film that I'm like not that interested in. Then we could have gotten a little more of what Bruce is going through in this film.
This could have been a very Batman-centric movie.
Well, at the very least, I feel like it's the most.
It's the most.
Out of all these movies, it's the most Batman-centric.
Which is a little disappointing because they could have done a lot more with that. And it would have been really interesting to see.
Yeah.
As far as Batman and Robin, not the movie Batman and Robin, but like Batman and Robin together on screen here, yeah. I like how Robin was handled. They didn't make him... I mean, besides the laundry scene, he wasn't too cringy in this movie.
You like Chris O'Donnell in this?
I do. Overall, I do.
Overall, for sure. There are some parts where he gets a little whiny.
Yeah, there's a lot of parts where he gets whiny. But overall, I do like it. He seems to fit the character pretty well. Yeah,
I always as a kid, he was my favorite character. I, for some reason, always wanted to be Robin instead of Batman as a kid. But I think that's the point of Robin. It was to kind of lure the kids in, you know?
Yeah, he was a younger...
Exactly. He's for the kids.
Yeah. And they did a good job with him. His suit looks good.
His suit does look good. Yeah. You know,
it could have been a disaster.
Sure. His suit looks good within the boundaries of we're making these muscly rubber nipples suits. You know what I mean? With like real butts. We didn't talk about the butts too much, but there's a lot of butt in the next one especially.
There's a lot of butt in the next one.
Yeah.
Ooh.
When we get to the villains, they're just both the Joker. You know what I mean? And I was alluding to that a lot because I really wanted to talk about it. They're just both the Joker. And there's not
even like a good Joker either.
Exactly. So if we start with Jim Carrey, he's just being Jim Carrey.
Right.
And like early Jim Carrey. So he's just kind of like comedic actor, throws out a joke a minute, a reference a minute. And it's Jim Carrey playing Ace Ventura, playing the Riddler. And I feel like Jim Carrey is such a talented actor, and he's such a talented serious actor when he wants to get serious.
Yeah.
That I feel like...
Well, as we saw that in Kick-Ass 2.
Exactly.
He played that role fantastically.
Sure. And there's so many other roles that he's done incredibly, and so like dramatic roles. If he had just applied any different direction to this character, I think it would have worked better.
Yeah.
Because I was on the fence of whether or not I like this Jim Carrey version of the Riddler and if it fits that character. And I'm like, I don't think it does.
I'm wondering how much of that was Carrey or Schumacher.
No,
would they have hired Jim Carrey?
It's the studio. He was the biggest name in this movie. They said, we need Jim Carrey to be Jim Carrey.
So we need to have a crazy out there villain.
Exactly. They don't want any creativity. They want him to just be, for sure, they just want him to be Jim Carrey. Be Ace Ventura. But like you said, the Riddler is not usually like this funny character. And riddles aren't funny, they're interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not like the Joker who's making jokes and everything's funny to him and he's like this, maniac. The Riddler is arguably not a maniac so much as he's just very, very OCD.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, he can be quirky and stuff, but this iteration of the Riddler, it's almost like he's just trying to be like a comedian.
Exactly. And
which, I mean,
that's
yeah,
a product
you got
of getting
Jim Carrey.
so,
it all comes full circle.
Exactly. And then Two-Face, we talked about his origin and how it was just kind of glossed over.
It was like in a news report.
Right. They messed it up with the last two films. But none of this makes sense to me because Tommy Lee Jones is not a comedic actor.
At all.
Not even close.
Which is why it was so weird seeing him act this way.
He might be the least comedic actor I can think of. Like, I can't think of a less funny man, you know, than Tommy Lee Jones. The man doesn't have a funny bone in his body. Like, I don't know. I couldn't even imagine telling him a joke that would work on him. Like, ever. So you got a serious actor, you got a serious role, like a serious character in Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
But then you tell him to, like, make it funny?
I think he could have been a really good Two-Face.
Yeah. Again, both these actors are incredible.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones are both incredible
they're not
actors.
being utilized in the way they should be.
Not at all.
The direction they were given was just...
Why cast him? Why direct him like this? Why do it? And in interviews, he mostly says, that his son was just very enthusiastic about Batman, and so he couldn't pass it up or whatever.
He was like, all right, I'll do it.
But, I mean, a lot of other people will say he did for the publicity. Like, this is a very, very big movie, and just to kind of get his name out there, in a big way. When
this was before Men in Black, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's also after a couple movies he had done that just didn't do very well at all.
Okay.
People will go out in droves to see a Batman movie. It doesn't matter how good it is. Yeah. But to see some of his more, like, serious dramas based on novels of authors that he knows personally, like, that, not so much.
No. And he could be fantastic in those movies, but I guarantee you a lot of people just didn't watch him.
Sure. No, exactly. And like I said earlier, I think the role was written a lot better than it was executed. Because if you would just, like, read the screenplay... His lines don't seem that bad. He doesn't come across as a horrible character. No, so much as the way he portrays it, the way he reads the lines.
It's the direction he was given.
Yeah.
I guarantee you Tommy Lee Jones did not want to act funny.
Absolutely. But it feels like Tommy Lee Jones is playing the Joker, playing Two-Face.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Part of me feels like, does nobody know anyone else except for the Joker? Like, I understand that the Joker is the single most popular villain of all time, period. Not just comic book movies, not just Batman, no, like all time. It's like Joker and Darth Vader. Those are the most villainous villains anyone could ever think of.
And everybody knows who they are.
Exactly. The problem is that, like, I feel people that aren't super familiar with Batman aren't familiar with anything but the Joker, and they just kind of assume all his villains are kind of like that.
Like wackos?
Exactly.
Which they are, but not to this extent. Not silly really, wackos.
Like, Harley Quinn, sure. But the other ones all have their own methods and their own personalities. And
look at Killer Croc.
Sure, exactly. And so I just feel like, especially at this time, and maybe it's because the Joker was the villain in the first movie, that they said, oh, we're just going to have all Jokers from here on in. I mean, Penguin didn't feel like a Joker, but it also wasn't Penguin.
No. That being said, I still love the way Danny DeVito played him.
Sure. And then you've got these two characters. You got these two characters that are very Joker-fied. Yeah. And if we fast forward to next week, Mr. Freeze is also kind of Joker-fied in his movie,
and he's another very serious villain normally.
Sort of. We'll get to that.
Sort of.
So I think everything villain-related in this movie just falls flat. Don't get me wrong. I have fun watching Jim Carrey's Joker. Fucking A. Jim Carrey's Riddler. Because... It's Jim Carrey, and I like Jim Carrey, and I laughed at his jokes in this movie. Don't get me wrong. Like, most of them go over your head when you're a kid.
Yeah.
So when he's making all these references, he says joygasm at one point, and this is the first time I ever understood that. Because I haven't seen this movie since I was like 10, and I didn't know what joygasm is a portmanteau of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the last thing before we move on is Val Kilmer. We kind of didn't talk about how he is as Batman. You said you didn't like him very much, right?
I think out of the three Batman in this series of films, he's probably my least favorite.
Okay.
He doesn't strike me as a believable Batman or Bruce Wayne. Just something always seems like off when I'm watching him on screen. His acting's fine. I think it's just maybe he doesn't like fit the suit quite well enough. And then when he's Bruce Wayne, I'm like, he doesn't look like what I imagine Bruce Wayne to look like ever.
Okay, that's fair. I kind of disagree with you on every single thing you've said.
And that's okay.
I think he looks better in the suit, the first suit. He looks good in the first suit. He looks horrible in the second suit. We talked about this earlier. I think he looks better in the suit than Michael Keaton did by a lot. I'm not saying he's a better actor than Michael Keaton, but I'm saying he had more to do in this movie than Michael Keaton did.
Right.
And that's why I think I like him better in this movie than Keaton. I like him as Bruce Wayne. Some of his acting as Batman, I think he was going for flat and serious because that's how Batman would be. And it comes off as wooden, flat, serious.
Robotic.
Yeah,
almost.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think some of that could have been better. So between him and Keaton, I'm leaning towards Val Kilmer. And I'm sure everyone's going to disagree with me, but I feel like watch these movies now. Like watch them one after the other after the other. Don't rely on your nostalgia and the things that you remember fondly. Because I think people remember certain things fondly and forget the bad things, or remember the bad things and forget the good things, like I was saying. It's easy to remember, oh, Tommy Lee Jones was terrible in this. The villains are really bad, and therefore the movie is bad. And they forget that there's a lot of good Batman stuff in this. And it's easy to remember the first two Batman movies as the two quote-unquote better ones.
Like the definitive ones of the time.
Exactly. So they're like, oh, therefore, everything involving them is better. We talked about this when we talked about Jack Nicholson's Joker. People remember that so fondly, and we watched it. I don't know about you, but I was just like, it's okay. It's not really special. And so I think what people are remembering is their own nostalgia. I think that's clouding their judgment after a long time. You know?
Yeah, and we'll get a lot more into this next week as well.
We'll just rank them all next week when we get to Clooney. But I feel like Kilmer, he tried.
Oh, he definitely
tried something.
I'm not saying he's bad. No. I just don't buy him as Bruce Wayne Batman.
I buy him a lot better than Keaton. I'm going to say that. Again, he looks like he could arguably be Batman. Like he's in better shape than Michael Keaton is.
I'll give you that.
He pops off the shirt. He's looking good. I would believe that he's in really good shape. He even he looks more like a rich person than Michael Keaton does for me. Michael Keaton kind of doesn't fit that role for me as like an actor.
Okay.
You know, I bought Michael Keaton as the Vulture because he's like this blue collar worker.
Michael Keaton's a very grizzled looking guy.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that worked perfectly. But for Batman, I'm like, does he strike me as like was raised a billionaire kid, you know, but is secretly Batman on the side? Not at all on any of those counts.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Next week, we could also be like, not just rank each one by Batman, but we can rank, who was the better Bruce Wayne, who was the better Batman, because they are kind of different characters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've heard people say that there are three personas. There's Batman, Bruce Wayne, the socialite, like Bruce Wayne, the person who goes out and pretends to be like just a dumb billionaire, and then the real Bruce Wayne.
The Bruce Wayne chilling at home miserable.
Yeah. Like there's three different personas here. So
I feel like Ben Affleck nails that one.
Look, I've said it a million times. Ben Affleck's the best one.
I agree.
In almost all categories.
I think he's the best Bruce Wayne and the best Batman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Every single category, he nails it. And I know Christian Bale's an amazing actor, but there's things that he just couldn't do.
There's things that Batman, Christian Bale did that I didn't like in those movies, but like this isn't the place to talk about it.
So, it is, because there's no other time we can talk about it.
I don't like the growling voice that he kind of coined.
Sure.
Where's real?
Where are the other drugs going? It's so easy to make fun of.
It is. You can make yourself sound intimidating without growling at someone as you speak.
Sure.
I don't know if that was a Chris Nolan thing or a...
I think it's probably both.
Okay.
Well, that's why the best one is Ben Affleck, because, in that sense, because he's got the voice modulator.
Yeah.
And so it just sounds like it's going through... He sounds kind of robotic, mechanical, but also kind of like...
intimidating.
And yeah, because he sounds like a serial killer on the other line of a phone disguising his voice.
Yeah.
You know? So you think you're ready to move on?
Yeah. So far, I like Keaton better than Val Kilmer.
You said Keaton. Yeah. Okay. So moving on, we're getting to Keep or Cancel. And it's a segment where we talk about all the actors in this movie or people involved in this movie, and we decide if we're going to keep them or we're going to cancel them. We already did Jim Carrey when we did Kick-Ass 2. So I don't really want to go into it too much because basically I canceled him, and I think you...
I think I did too.
I think we both canceled him because he's kind of an anti-vaxxer. He's kind of a hippy-dippy weirdo. But on the other hand, he's also... We both said he's very talented. I said he might be one of the most underrated actors out there. He's never really won a big award or anything.
Right.
And I think he's one role away from doing that. But otherwise, But so for our thoughts on that, just go back to Kick-Ass 2. If we want to go to Val Kilmer or Tommy Lee Jones.
We could talk Tommy Lee Jones because I feel like he's actually got some behind-the-scenes stuff with Jim Carrey in this movie, right?
Yeah. So Tommy Lee Jones, born a real worker's son in Texas.
Right.
Like you. Studied real hard, got a scholarship, like a need-based scholarship to Harvard. So he's actually like this big-time scholar, graduated pretty high up there in Harvard, was on the football team and everything, then just started Broadway and then acting gigs until like right now. Now he's like in his 70s or whatever.
Oh, does he still act?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in...
The last thing I remember was Captain America, and he was good in Captain America.
Oh, I loved him in Captain. He was amazing in Captain America. He was probably the best actor for that role.
Asshole general, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, he's in 2 movies that were either came out this year or were supposed to because of COVID. Oh, he was in Ad Astra last year. I was this close to seeing Ad Astra and I didn't. Captain America, obviously Men in Black.
Men in Black might be one of his more famous roles, actually.
Well, probably one of his most famous roles is in The Fugitive. He's like the bad guy in that.
True. I guess it depends on when you were born.
Sure, but he won an Academy Award for that, in The Fugitive.
Okay.
And then there was a spin-off called U.S. Marshals. I've seen both of those movies, but I do not remember either of them. So I should probably watch. I know one is good, one is bad.
I think The Fugitive is good.
I think The Fugitive is good, U.S. Marshals is bad. So I think Men in Black might be my favorite role. Men in Black's one of my favorite movies, by the way.
He was actually pretty perfect for that role in Men in Black.
I love that movie so much. It's based on a comic book.
Yes.
So, and they're arguably... So they're arguably superheroes. The thing is that it's not canceled yet because they just made Men in Black International and it's in canon. So it's not failed. Like, it's still going.
Okay.
Not strong, but it's chucking in there. That movie didn't do super well, but...
Head above water.
Yeah. But Men in Black is one of those, like, perfect, just kind of fun movies to watch. It's one of, like, the few movies I think I could watch over and over again.
And there's a few connections to Men in Black in this movie because apparently... I believe it was Chris O'Donnell was supposed to play Agent J originally, and he didn't want to.
Really?
He didn't want to do it.
No way.
Yeah.
I thought they were always going for like Will Smith.
They went with Will Smith afterwards, based on what I read at least. And obviously we had Tommy Lee Jones playing Agent K.
Yeah.
I'm curious if he would have gotten that role if he didn't do this movie, because that's another thing that doesn't seem like his usual fare. Like if you look at all the films he's in, it's mostly serious.
Well,
like
sure.
shit.
Men in Black is a lighthearted movie, but he is kind of the straight man in that film.
True.
He bounces off Will Smith super, super well because Will Smith is young and hip and funny and cool.
I feel like he didn't like Will Smith either, just like he didn't like Jim Carrey.
Yeah, okay. So Jim Carrey, obviously being Jim Carrey, and at this time, this is peak Jim Carrey.
Right.
It's 1995. And so what you were referring to is when the day before they started filming, they haven't even met yet. Jim Carrey goes to a restaurant. And it's funny because he's told this story all over the internet, like a bunch of interviews. But he goes to this restaurant and the maitre d' is like, hey, you're in this movie with Tommy Lee Jones, right? And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, oh, Tommy Lee Jones is right over there. He's got a table if you want to go see him. And so Jim Carrey goes to say hi and like introduce himself. Obviously, they know who they are, but they've never met.
Like, hey, I'm Jim Carrey. We're going to be working together. How's it going?
Sure. Tommy Lee Jones stands up and gets close to him and just says, I hate you. I really, really don't like you. And Jim Carrey's like, what? Like, what? Like, what? Is this okay? Like, whatever. And he just goes, I cannot sanction your buffoonery. He says to Jim Carrey.
That's such a fucking Tommy Lee Jones thing to say.
Tommy Lee Jones would consider Jim Carrey, like peak 90s Jim Carrey, a buffoon. And like the kinds of movies that he's making because he's a very, very serious filmmaker, right? An actor.
And then he plays this fucking role.
Right. And so I just imagine that he fucking hated his life every single day on the set of this.
He was probably being 100% honest when he's like, I only did this for my kid.
Pretty much. Apparently, Joel Schumacher at one point also called him a bully on set. Like, he was kind of insufferable.
I can see that.
Yeah. And Jim Carrey admitted, like, some actors may not like that he requires a lot of takes. Because Jim Carrey is he's just very dedicated. And he wants to... Most of his stuff is improv.
Yeah.
So he wants to improv everything until it feels right. And then he's going to keep the stuff he likes and get rid of the stuff that he doesn't like. It's a very kind of iterative process for him.
And obviously he shared a lot of scenes with Tommy Lee Jones. So.
Oh, almost every single one. As I'm watching this movie, I knew about this, so I'm just looking at how they're acting together. And first of all, they're very close.
Are you wondering how many takes that?
Oh my god, and how miserable Tommy Lee
like,
Jones is.
He's like touching him. And
There's a lot of touching. And so I'm like, I wonder how miserable he was during the filming of this.
Oh, man.
But apparently he's kind of a dick, yeah. And the thing is like, I don't think that makes him a bad person necessarily. He's just rough around the edges.
Yeah.
You know, people have said that about me sometimes. So I can kind of get it. But at the same time, I could never imagine disliking someone. Like, there are people I dislike. I wouldn't just, on the very first moment of meeting them, or at least being close, I'm just going to be like, listen, I hate you. Like, go away. I would at least play it cool.
like be civil?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't know. Maybe you get to know each other a little bit.
If you give him a chance, you will like him, Tommy.
Yeah. So, Tommy Lee Jones, I don't know. Well, keep or cancel. What do you say?
I mean, I don't want to cancel someone just because he's, like, kind of a dick, you know?
Sure. Like, he's not certifiably a dick.
Like, has he done anything, like, horrible to anyone?
I don't think so.
Does he beat women?
Nah, he seems to be a pretty cool dude, I think.
I mean,
I could never be friends with this guy.
No.
You know what I mean?
But that doesn't mean, like, his career should end, you know?
Sure. Obviously. But, like, this isn't that serious.
We're not actually canceling
have you seen No Country for Old Men?
Yes.
It was very, very good. It's the Coen brothers. So the main villain, played by Javier Bardem, has a coin that he flips, and that's how he decides if he's going to kill whoever he runs into or is not. They just straight up stole that from Two-Face.
Yeah.
And the actor who's only played Two-Face at this time is in this movie, and he fucking hates it. So I'm wondering, like, how many times in this very serious production, this very serious movie, did that come up? Like, hey, it's like Two-Face, like that character you play, like every sound person, like every
like
assistant.
the crew.
Yeah, like, is there a rule that was like, hey, we know
like,
that there's
don't talk about Batman.
Do not bring up Two-Face. Do not look at Mr. Jones in the face.
It probably was, actually.
I would imagine, honestly.
But, like, all that being said, like, there's nothing wrong with being a little rough around the edges. Like, I'll keep Tommy.
Oh, sure.
Just be nicer to people, dude.
Like I said, I wouldn't be friends with someone like this.
No. I would never be friends with Tommy Lee Jones, but I respect him.
Sure. I feel like all my friends are like, funny people. I don't like hanging out with overly serious people that can't take a joke. Yeah. You know, so, like, I wouldn't personally hang out with Tommy Lee Jones, but sure, I think I'm keeping him.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat.
I think that's where I draw
He's
the
a good
line.
actor.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
We'll leave it at that.
Exactly. Val Kilmer, I got not much to say. Did you know that he had throat cancer?
I did not.
Yeah, so he had to stop acting like 5 or 6 years ago because he developed throat cancer, and but basically he had like a chunk of his throat removed, and he can't talk anymore.
At all?
No, he's very, very, very hoarse.
Damn,
basically,
that sucks.
Yeah, he can't really do much acting. The only acting he's done since is that he was in the movie Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
Oh, he was in it?
Which is a sequel to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Yeah, Val Kilmer's in it because he plays. This is a little, it's a little convoluted. If you don't know about Jay and Silent Bob and the View Askew-verse, it's all the Kevin Smith movies, there's these characters, Jay and Silent Bob. They're very famous, actually. You should know about them. But in one of their movies, they get written into comic book characters where they're superheroes.
Blunt Man and Chronic.
Blunt Man and Chronic, yeah. In the next movie, there's a movie made about the comic, and Jay and Silent Bob want to stop that movie from happening.
That's Strike Back, right?
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Mark Hamill's in that. Carrie Fisher's in that.
Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck is in it.
He's like friends with Kevin Smith, right?
He was at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a falling out because of apparently Jennifer
Garner.
Elektra. Yeah, exactly. She didn't like Kevin Smith, and so they kind of like had a falling out over Jennifer.
He had to listen to the missus.
Yeah, but then they broke up, and now they're buds again, apparently.
That's kind of funny.
It is funny.
It's sad, too, though.
Sure. Back to Val Kilmer. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is in this universe. They're making a reboot of that movie that they made 15 years prior based on the comic book, based on the real life in-universe Jay and Silent Bob.
It's very meta.
Yeah, it's very meta. So they want to stop that movie from being made. In that movie, which is, again, the reboot to Blunt Man and Chronic, it's a play off of Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. So it's it's a parody of that. So it's a very dark and gritty version of Blunt Man and Chronic, which they're like two stoner superheroes. It's not dark and gritty at all.
No.
So in that one, Blunt Man is Jay. No, Silent Bob. So they get Val Kilmer to play Blunt Man, the new Blunt Man, who is very, very loosely based on Batman. And so he talks to Val Kilmer, and he's like, hey, I've got a role if you want to be a part of it. And Val Kilmer's like, I don't know if you know this. I can't act anymore because I can't really speak.
He's like, oh, perfect.
No, you don't understand. It's perfect for you. I don't need you to say anything at all because you're playing Silent Bob, basically. It's a very short role.
And Val Kilmer's like, all right.
But it's also, again, meta, another layer. You also played Batman, and his character's kind of loosely based on Batman.
That's a very Kevin Smith thing to do.
Yeah. And then later on, Ben Affleck is in that movie as, not Ben Affleck, which he was in the last movie, as one of his reoccurring characters, who's a comic book writer. That character says, no, Ben Affleck is the best Batman. Like, he just says it.
Ben Affleck.
So, it is very Kevin Smith. It's very meta. It's fun. Other than that, Val Kilmer, fine. Like,
yeah, like, he's not my favorite Batman, but
yeah.
I don't think the guy's, like, a bad actor or anything.
Top Gun is fine.
It's fine.
I don't think it's that good. I watched it for, like, the first time as an adult. Not that long ago. Everything when they're in a plane is amazing. It's amazing. And it holds up because it's all real. And then everything when they're not in a plane is...
It's cringy.
Yeah, it's cringy and it's horrible. And I'm not here for it at all.
It's one of those movies where, like...
plot doesn't really make that much
reputation
sense.
Is a lot bigger than the movie itself.
Yeah, I was expecting to be more blown away. But all the action sequences in that are just some of the best.
Oh, some of the best, like, flying I've seen in any movie.
It's a shame he's not going to be in the sequel because one, yeah, like we said, like he doesn't act anymore,
right?
And I don't think he would look the part anymore.
Yeah.
So there you go. Keep
him
easy. Nicole Kidman.
I don't think she's done anything wrong.
I like that she's Australian. Have you ever seen Lion?
No.
I think she got nominated for an Academy Award for Lion, or she won it. One of the two.
Okay.
And she's fantastic in that, and I cried in that movie like a baby.
Oh, shit.
Not often that happens, but it's... do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, I don't know anything about it. Oh, Slumdog Millionaire, yeah. Prince Zuko.
Yep. He plays an orphan that was lost in India, and he like got on the wrong train, and then the train just kept going. He like fell asleep in it, and by the time he wakes up, that's it. Like, there's no way, because I mean, he was like... His parents were essentially like homeless. They were just kind of like these,
right. Yeah, there's
like
no
a lot
way
of people,
he's gonna find home because there is no home.
And like a lot of people in like the rural parts of India, so it's impossible for him to be essentially reunited with his parents, and so he gets adopted. And it's all this is based on a true story, by the way.
Okay.
He gets adopted by this Australian family.
Of course, it's Nicole Kidman.
It's Nicole Kidman, and so he's raised Australian, and his Australian accent is really solid because he's not an Australian, which I think he's British. And Indian, obviously.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, because, I mean, it's based on a real story, he gets reunited with his Indian mom.
Oh,
using Google Earth.
Google Earth?
Yeah, once Google Earth came out, he, like, used it and everything he knew about his past to find the village where he's from. And he went there, and he found his mom.
How much credit did Google take for that?
That's a good question. And at the very end, like during the credits, they intercut that with like footage of the real life character reuniting with his family, and the whole village is out there like celebrating and stuff. And like,
because something like that, it's like they're impossible odds.
Yeah, not a dry eye in the whole fucking theater. Like
shit.
It is real feel good, but it's real rough. So it's called Lion.
Lion?
Yeah, highly recommend. Also, she divorced Tom Cruise, so good for her. Actually, keep.
Actually, yeah, definitely keep.
Yeah, keep.
Yeah, Tom Cruise is fucking...
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is a wacko.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is a Batman villain.
I'm kind of sad we don't get to ever talk about Tom Cruise. He hasn't been in any single one of these fucking movies.
I wish Minority Report was based off of a comic book.
No, I think it's original.
It's just a Spielberg movie.
No, it's a novel. It's like a novel.
It was a novel?
I think it's loosely based on a novel. It got like Spielberged up a bit.
Spielberged up a lot.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
I like the movie a lot. I don't think it did well in the box office.
I think it did pretty good. We watched it this year. Not this year, it's 2021.
I think it got canceled after one season.
No, not the show. We watched the movie.
Oh, the movie.
The movie holds up. It's
I like
really,
the movie.
Really good.
I think they could have gotten anyone but Tom Cruise to play that part, though.
I've said, I don't know how we got on a Tom Cruise tangent, but I like Tom Cruise the actor. It's Tom Cruise the person I have a problem with.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's where I'm at. But anyway, final thoughts. Into the Phantom Zone. Not Into the Phantom Zone. What do you have to say about Batman Forever?
Say Not Into the Phantom Zone. This is not my favorite Batman movie by any means, but it's one worth watching for the good that is in it. Like, there is some good Batman stuff. We see more Batman in this movie than any of the other ones, I believe.
Yeah.
Even Batman and Robin.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're with me there.
For that alone, I'd say, like, give it a watch, because it's, if you want to see some older, more classic Batman action, this would probably be the one to watch.
Sure. Definitely not throw in the Phantom Zone, because this is, again, I think it's easy to look at the bad parts of this and make fun of it and go like, oh my God, this movie's horrible.
Oh, there's a lot of dumb shit in this
movie.
movie.
If you just show one or two scenes to someone, they're going to be like, I don't want to watch this.
The laundry scene that we're going to put in the show notes.
Yeah, for one. But also, like, if you're already primed with this universe, like if you've seen Batman and Robin before and you haven't seen this one, that's where your expectation is. And so, like, the rubber suits don't bother you because you knew that was coming. You knew the nipples were coming. So none of this is surprising to you.
It's kind of more of the same in that regard.
Exactly. Then it feels a lot better because you're not getting bogged down by all those things.
Yeah. The villains do bog this one down a lot, though.
Sure. But, like, overall, I think this movie is good. I don't think it's horrible. I think the good outweighs the bad. I think there's a lot of bad in it, but again, I think the good outweighs it, and I quite enjoyed watching it, honestly. I didn't think I was going to because I didn't remember this movie from when I was a kid, and maybe I didn't understand all of what was trying to get done, but no, man, this movie stays for me, and I liked it better than the last two. Because I
really like Returns.
So you're leaning on Batman Returns as like so far your favorite one.
Yeah, but I'm also one where I tend to lean toward like more of like the black sheep in like a series.
It's definitely
the black Batman sheep. Returns is definitely the black sheep of the series.
And we talked obviously at length about that one, but I feel like it's a fine movie. I don't like it as a Batman movie because there's just not that much Batman in it.
It was a Penguin movie.
Yeah, and at that point, I'm tired of Batman getting the short end of the stick in his own fucking movies. You know,
that's fair.
And
fair.
At least here, Batman Forever, Batman's a priority. So I can appreciate that. And I like what they did to him.
Campiness and all.
Oh yeah. Because you buy into that. You have to buy into the campiness in order to enjoy this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's like you can't go in. Okay, so you can't go watch No Country for Old Men, like you were just saying, and then go watch a Fast and the Furious movie back to back. You're not going to have fun with the Fast. You have to be in that mood, that mindset to go into Fast and Furious. You have to accept that it's completely bonkers or else you're never going to like it. You have to buy into that. You being a Fast and Furious defender, you should know.
Yeah.
So the only thing we left out, by the way, is hashtag #ReleasetheSchumacherCut. Have you heard about that? It's basically nothing. But have you heard about it?
Well, if it's basically nothing, I don't think I've heard of it.
We're going to talk about it much later when we hit up Justice League, because we decided Justice League counts. It's sort of...
The movie itself is being remade.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So that whole thing happened because of the viral campaign of hashtag #ReleaseTheSnyderCut, because fans knew that Zack Snyder had gotten removed from that movie, and then they reshot literally the whole thing. Hashtag #ReleaseTheSnyderCut got so much traction and so much attention that when finally WB has nothing to make because of COVID, they're like, well, we can make this. So let's just appease the fans and get the Snyder Cut out there. And everyone sees it as this huge victory, even though it's not out yet and we don't know if it's good or bad. Here's the problem with that. By letting your fans, by giving them what they want, what they're asking for, which is on the one hand, what these companies should be doing.
Yeah, but you have to be careful with how you do it because you start opening the floodgates to a lot of ridiculous shit.
Yeah, appeasement
they give an inch,
doesn't work.
They'll take a mile.
Exactly. So now it's release the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, because Suicide Squad...
I don't think that movie was ever going to be good.
Maybe not, but it did get re-edited towards the end, and it did end up being super choppy, and a lot of Joker stuff was cut out, and people are saying, well, what was the original David Ayer one? If we're going to get the Snyder Cut, let's get the Ayer cut. And then there was an article that said Joel Schumacher had 40 more minutes of Batman Forever that had to be cut towards the end because the studio wanted
a shorter
film that was more family friendly. So he took out some of the darkest elements of this movie, which was more of the Batman psyche stuff.
More of the stuff that we would have liked to have seen.
Exactly. Yeah. And so now people are going...
The stuff that got
and Joel Schumacher died like last year.
Oh, shit.
I don't know if you remember. I think it was last year. I think it was 2019 or 2020.
Oh, damn.
So now it's like, oh, you have to do it. You have to release a Schumacher cut. And so now there is a
I don't think it's going to happen.
No, of course not. It's basically nothing, like I said.
I wouldn't mind them releasing like deleted scenes.
And you can watch some deleted scenes. We watched one, and it was kind of bad. So I was like, oh, good, they deleted it. And that's what happens a lot of times when you watch a deleted scene. You're like, that scene is bad. Right. I'm glad. I see why you cut it.
But here's the thing about like director's cut of films. Like every film gets cut down.
Right.
It's not a new thing at all.
Yeah. And a lot of director's cuts are not longer. They're shorter. So, so that's it for Batman Forever. That means that what's our next movie?
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman and Robin, the most infamous one. This is the movie that basically killed Batman for a while and might have ruined comic book movies for a little bit too. Until we got
X-Men and Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Those are the two that kind of like kicked it back up.
Yeah, those two movies kick off like this newest age of superhero movies.
Yeah.
That movie is no longer available on HBO Max, but it comes and goes. So as of now, it's not available. If you're looking to watch it, I don't know, go on there and check. It could change month to month, basically. Otherwise, you could rent it.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you to That Piano Dude for our still new musical intro. And it sounds fantastic. Make sure to leave a rating and review on whatever service you're listening to us on. They do help.
For sure.
Tell your friends about us. Tell all of your friends about us.
Single one.
Tell your family about us. Tell a stranger about us.
I was just going to say stranger. Yeah. Sure. You can find us on Instagram at Films from the Phantom Zone, on Twitter at Films from PZ. We're also uploading all of these podcasts on YouTube, Films from the Phantom Zone. So
that's a more recent thing that we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like last week. So if you are the kind of person who likes to listen to podcasts at a computer and it just works easier for you, I know some people that's how they get their podcasts.
Yeah,
it's just like not the usual way of listening to podcasts, but it is a way. So all those are on YouTube. They're not videos. Like you can't see us. They're just literally this on YouTube
with an image
with us. Yeah, with a static image. So that's it. So other than that, we will see you guys next week, hopefully. Okay, bye.
Bye.